Welcome everybody to High and Low, a podcast about talking picture shows.
We do films that are corny, and some that are horny, and some that win Academy Awards.
Doing all kind of movies from all kinds of genres, serving hot takes like plates of lasagna.
Before we get going, a warning to you, you might hear some talk that's a little blue.
We sometimes cuss and we sometimes curse. We like to do it off the cuff and don't rehearse.
Now, if this sounds like your kind of show,
Tune in,
Drop out,
this is High and Low.
Act like a pack of hounds. We were just having fun.
Hello out there, all you gargoyles and gobbledygooks. Welcome once again to the High and Low House of Horrors. There's all kinds of spooky goings-ons this Halloween because me and my creepy co-host watched a couple of old dusty VHS tapes that I found in the cellars and the dungeons of our haunted mansion.
let me out.
That's the theme of this week's episode, you see.
Help, I'm trapped in Mitchell's mom's pussy.
Diabolical.
Help me find my keys. We'll drive out.
We're doing found footage horror films on this week's episode of the High and Low podcast. That's where we take a high movie and a low movie and we compare them against each other. And this week we're doing The Blair Witch Project and Ghostwatch, two classic found footage pictures. You know, a found footage, iconic genre.
Yeah.
Kind of a staple of horror, so it fits in with our Halloween horror house.
I'd say in large part due to the Blair Witch Project. That kind of put the whole genre back on the map. It had been around for a couple of decades beforehand, but it really made it popular.
Blair Witch wasn't the first found footage horror movie, but it's probably the most iconic one, and it sort of laid the groundwork for an entire genre that's almost been just driven into the ground at this point, where everything that can be done has been done with found footage, it feels like, at this point.
For better or worse. I mean, I don't know how much I like it overall as a genre, but I'll throw it on and enjoy it from time to time. The building tension is pretty effective, but they're a little hit and miss.
I like to get my yearly found footage fix during the Halloween season. I'll watch a found footage movie or two. Like we were talking before we started recording about the VHS films.
Yeah, have you ever found any footage?
Yeah, I found these two films in our podcast. Yeah, I should introduce you guys. I haven't introduced my co-host.
Did you find this film on like a reel-to-reel?
I found it. Man, there's all kinds of stuff when you go down into the dungeons below the High and Low podcast studio. You find dusty boxes covered in cobwebs. You got to blow them off and dust them, and you look in there. Everything in there.
Yeah, people don't know that, like, you can come here. It's like the Criterion Closet, but it's for the damned.
But you can't leave.
We're like Alberta's Hotel California. Check in anytime you want. You can never leave.
Well,
That's a cry for help.
for those of you who don't know, we're just three creepy ghouls. I'm Mitch Helmick Dyzik. This is Luke Slowbood. And,
Hello.
and Vonn Ghoulziola.
Pleased to meet you.
Yeah, and we've been cursed. We did some horrible things when we were...
started a podcast.
We're trapped in this house of horrors now, and we have to watch movies, or they won't let us leave.
Which is it's funny because it's at Mitchell's house.
Yeah. And I won't let us leave. I won't... None of you can leave until we've discussed the Blair Witch Project and Ghostwatch.
I think I'm
That's
up
right.
for the task.
Good.
It had been a while since I watched Blair Witch Project. I don't think I'd seen it since it came out.
Yeah. What's your guys' history with the Blair Witch? Because this movie was a phenomenon when it came out in the 90s.
I remember the phenomena really well.
Yeah.
I think that there was like maybe a Time magazine cover story at the time. Everybody was talking about it.
It had a crazy ad campaign. They would play the trailers and little bits and the TV spots all the time.
Early internet. I mean, it wasn't early internet. I mean, I've been on the internet since like its nascent stages.
It had a
but
website.
This was one of those movies that like really broke through the zeitgeist. Their marketing thing was incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about it. People really thought it was real. It's kind of hard to get one over on people like that nowadays in the same way. Like,
yeah, it's crazy that people just thought that like some footage that presumably the FBI dug out from the woods of 3 missing teenagers was just edited together and put on the screens, but people did.
That's what I love about found footage.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just like this little leap you have to do in your mind before you watch it that you don't even think about. But the idea is basically you sort of found a snuff film or this film where real life people died, and somebody took the time to stitch it together and edit it into like a comprehensive story or a comprehensible story.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, it never had that buy-in from me, and I always struggle with found footage on that level. I never can quite be absorbed in it. I'm always kind of looking at the seams or always cringing at the acting or why would the camera be there or why would it be positioned in such a way? Like I always
to record
bounce
everything,
off
Heather.
it a little bit. Yeah.
But I also liked how annoyed everybody was getting at her for recording everything.
Yeah.
They were voicing my frustrations.
Yeah, that becomes a big sticking point, part of the drama and tension that kind of erupts between these 3 people. But that's one thing I actually really like about the Blair Witch Project that no other found footage movie has really emulated for me is I do find it plausible when I'm watching it. Like there is no ghosties or ghoulies that are jumping out. There is no crazy camera trickery that couldn't happen because the actors actually are filming it all. You know, the actors are the ones holding the cameras, and there was no script or anything. It is perhaps the only found footage movie that I'm like, this is kind of plausible and believable to me as I'm watching it.
Yeah, all the dialogue is improvised and stuff, so it's like a episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Except I wish we had Marty Funkhauser and the gang here, or like that Sopranos episode, Pine Barrens, that everybody loves.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that stuff was improvised on the spot. Steve Buscemi directed that.
Yeah, that's right.
I went parking for a folk fest one year on the other side of a ravine, and a friend of the pod, Charity, was with me. We were leaving the folk fest, and we had to go through the gully in pitch black, and we got lost, and I was ready to, kill her after 20 minutes, let alone like days in the woods. Like getting lost in the woods is super stressful and frustrating.
Yeah, that's my sister. I know the feeling. I've been lost in the woods with her many times.
Yeah, and
it's just a miracle I haven't knifed her to death.
Everybody has good intentions, but then one thing leads to another, and before you just keep going deeper and deeper into the thick of it.
Guys,
in the middle of the goddamn city, too.
Yeah.
Next time, you guys just have to pile rocks in interesting ways and make little stick figures in the woods. Freak her out that way, Get your comeuppance that way.
Yeah, and it's good to have a creative endeavor, too. Yeah. You want to stay positive, keep your mind engaged when you're in that type of survival situation.
That's so true.
And I would never fuck with my friends that hard. This movie, it did scare me a bit. I'll give it credit because I didn't really ever like it. I think it's awesome that it made, 200 plus million?
Yeah, on a budget of 60,000.
It's got to be one of the best returns in the history of movies.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah, one of the best return on investment ever.
So that's incredible. And it's annoying that there was all these like parodies of it and everybody,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it got so much shit. It's just like, it's a really scrappy backyard fucking movie made by complete amateurs.
Yeah.
And they just happened to hit it just at the right time for whatever reason.
Well, their marketing thing was just brilliant.
Yeah.
That's got to be it's got to be it. Like,
and nowadays horror is still really profitable. These smaller budget horror movies, like
typically
their marketing, they market to these kids. Movies like Smile and Longlegs, like their viral marketing that they've been getting going has made these movies huge successes.
Longlegs is a bit of an exception because it has Nicolas Cage, but typically horror movies don't have big budget stars, A-list talent.
But Longlegs
like
didn't market itself on being a Nicolas Cage movie either. Yeah. It was like a secret, not very well kept, that he's the bad guy in it. Like, he's not even recognizable.
Going to a movie is just a great Halloween season activity. Like, there's going to be an audience that's just looking to go to a movie. So save any horror movie you've got up your sleeve if you're a studio and release it during that period, and it's going to have like an inflated return compared to if you released it any other time of the year. I don't even think like a Christmas movie probably doesn't have that. And no one's excited for Christmas movies.
I'm wondering what we got going on for horror movies this October. Smile 2 The aforementioned Smile. Did you guys see
is it?
Smile?
I saw Smile in the
did.
theater. I think it was opening night, and it was jam packed, and that was just such a great experience.
Yeah.
Everybody was into it.
Always fun.
That movie has 1,000 jump scares, and they worked on everybody, so there's just like a really good tense atmosphere.
fun.
Everybody, it was kind of electric in there.
I want to see Terrifier 3, which I believe is coming out next month. I'm hoping we'll find it in a theater near us, but that would be fun to see with an audience of real fucking horror heads.
Yeah, just a bunch of creeps and weirdos.
Yeah.
all packed into a theater.
We're here to watch a 2.5 hour long movie where a clown just rips people to pieces with the most realistic gore you've ever seen.
Art the Clown's so funny.
He's a real cut up.
Well, he's a clown. Clowns are they're
He's a hoot.
nature's clowns. They're funny.
We love the Halloween season. We love ghosts and ghouls, and slashers.
Like to get scared from time to time.
Yeah, anyway, I was so scared after watching this movie. I had my kid upstairs, and then when I went up to bed, I closed the door, and I was kind of just like getting undressed, and then the door opened on its own.
Man,
It
creepy.
just like the knob turned, and I like
Pipes.
I fucking jumped out of my skin, man. Like I
That's awesome.
like all the hairs on your body are like up, and you're freaking out. And I was like, Sebi, and I like peeked out into the hallway. And I thought it was him, but he wasn't there.
Man, what the heck?
And then like 15 minutes later, I like finally had turned off the light. Was like feeling not scared.
Yeah, goosebumps had gone down.
Actually, I was just about to turn off the lights, and I look to the door, and the knob turns.
My
And
God.
it opens up, and like it was all I could do not to scream, but I was like paralyzed with fear.
Yeah.
And then it was my kid, and he's like, "Dad, I'm scared. Can I come sleep with you?" I'm like, "Yes,
Please.
please."
Well,
I'm scared too, son. There could be a boogeyman or a boogeyman.
We don't know what's out there, boy. Get in here.
when they're done well, that's what makes these found footage movies so effective, is that they really play on these little eerie moments that happen day to day, little weird things, little strange things that are out of place, or things that shouldn't be happening, like a bed sheet moving when there's nobody on them, like in a Paranormal Activity movie, that type of stuff. It's weird, it's creepy, and it's super simple because you could immediately put yourself in those shoes, because there's nothing really
It's relatable.
nothing crazy is happening, relatively speaking. It's all
that's-
so subtle.
Exactly what I find believable about the Blair Witch Project relative to other found footage movies is that what's scary about it is kind of the same thing that's scary about The Witch, is that there's just something mysterious in the woods that they don't know. Like, it's not scary that there's like a scary witch monster chasing them or something. It's just that they're lost in the woods, and the drama that arises from that, and the fear and anxiety and how that plays on your mind. And just the drama of these three people at each other's throats, and by various turns kind of being allied with each other against another one, kind of polarizing in their group dynamic and stuff like that.
Yeah, since there's three of them, unless they're all on the same page, which they pretty much never are, it's always 2-on-1. Somebody's
Yeah.
always on the outs for some reason.
Yeah.
That's the three-way dynamic.
Yeah.
Just like this podcast, we always pick on Mitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's polarized against me. You're all against me because of my torture dungeon.
Just give us the keys to it so we could use it sometimes when you're not here.
You have to earn that privilege.
Sticks
I
and
don't
stones may break my bones.
I don't know.
Chains and whips excite me.
You guys could
Let
be
me in.
snitches. I don't know. The Blair Witch Project. It starts off with the black screen, the title cards, the infamous, in October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found. You know, the opening lines that launched 1,000 people into believing that this was
Iconic.
actual found footage of 3 people disappearing in the woods. Starts off right away at Heather Donahue's home. I guess the 3 actors in this movie, there's Joshua Leonard, Heather Donahue, and Michael C. Williams. Those are the character names and the actor names, so that's another way they further blur the line between like reality and I think maybe it had a negative impact on all these people's careers going forward a little bit. The fact that they were most famous for a movie that people believed was a real snuff film or something. Like they couldn't get a real gig after that.
Yeah, so Heather Donahue, she changed her name to Ray Hant.
Yeah, I wonder if she was inspired by the Star Wars, The Force Awakens.
Well, then she
Ray.
should be Ray Skywalker.
Ray
Yeah.
Hans Solo.
I am the
Skywalker.
last Skywalker.
Oh, right, that's canon. We're all all Skywalkers now, aren't we?
She's the last one.
We can just choose. We choose our own destiny. That was the.
We're all Skywalkers down here, Georgie.
Be cool if there was like a Highlander style fight. You could see who was the last Skywalker.
I am the last Skywalker.
Skywalkers go home and fuck the prom queen.
Leia was the prom queen,
Skywalkers bring a knife to a gunfight.
and then I found out she was my sister.
Good speed.
You know what that means, don't you?
Record scratch.
Inside good for speed. It's me, Longlegs. I'm back.
Oh no!
Longlegs. How'd you get out of the torture dungeon?
I'll go back now.
Goodbye.
I'll leave the door open for you.
I heard you were singing the Eagles. I love classic rock. Bye.
I love their laid-back California attitude.
You go back to the dungeon, Longlegs. You can't trust these guys.
The Eagles?
My creepy co-host. You can only trust
Ghost. Thank you very much.
So, Heather, she explains the concept of the movie while showing off some books and materials for the woods trip. One book has the article about what happened at Coffin Rock.
Yeah, some
She has-
history books of the area, Maryland ghost and legend books.
She's been doing a little bit of research.
And they got some How to Stay Alive in the Woods book. That's what it's called. And that I'm sure that's the book that I had when I was a kid that I mentioned in an earlier podcast where it tells you how to skin a rabbit with your bare hands.
They really should have read that
yeah.
before they left.
I don't know. Did they have food?
They had food for probably, 3 days? Like, it was just supposed to be
Yeah.
a weekend trip by the sounds of it.
Yeah, they didn't seem to be starving or at a loss for water. They seem to have okay gear.
Well,
but-
there's lots of running water, and I think they started to get pretty hungry after a couple days.
Yeah.
They set up that, like, some of their camera gear that they have here. They have 2 cameras, and one of them is sort of a professional-looking camera.
That's the DAT.
And they-
16 mil?
It's
I
like
believe.
film. It's a heavier duty thing. I'm not exactly sure what it is. They call it the DAT all the time.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a 16 millimeter camera in the Canon and in
okay.
reality.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then
sure
the
it's
other one
a
is what, like a digital,
Just like the type, camcorder.
or just like a home
tiny
camcorder.
little thing.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was the kind that had the screen that popped out from the side. Or
That-
it looked like it was
Yeah,
just the
I don't
kind you
think
put your
those
eyes
even
through.
existed until like the early aughts.
Yeah.
Or like they were not.
They're for rich
common.
folks in the mid-90s, probably.
Yeah, you had to put your eye right up to the eyepiece in those old ones.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Kevin McAllister opened one in Home Alone 2.
And like
So, but the McAllisters were super loaded. One of the kinds where the screen
Where it
popped out
has
on the
a
side.
screen?
Yeah,
Whoa.
but yeah,
Man, that was what, 94?
Yeah, I
90.
think
No,
so.
that was 92.
was it 90? Oh, I guess the first was 91, then 92. So yeah,
Yeah.
So
And
but
some listeners, comment below. Fact check us on that.
that's like the one.
anybody who can fact check that probably doesn't know how to work a keyboard.
I am your typical high and low listener. Hello.
I was thinking it's
Let
because
me
they're
tell
all-
you, I watched Home Alone 2. Can I be your researcher? Send me Venmo money.
Spend me more money, please.
But like Josh always uses the DAT camera. He's sort of the cameraman of the group, and then Heather will use this smaller camera, which seems to shoot black and white footage.
No, the smaller one shoots the color, and the black.
Oh, is
that's
it?
the black and
Okay.
white.
And they kind of established that they have like 3 days to get this camera back because I think they borrowed it from Mike's work or something.
Something,
Yeah.
or they rented it. I don't know.
I
Like,
think they rented it.
Oh, okay.
but
they
Mike
got-
had to get back
Whatever.
to work.
Yeah, he has to get back to work in 3 days and to get the camera back, or it's all going downhill.
Yeah, otherwise they need to pay late fees. Shit's expensive
But you never really know. I love that you never know what's exactly going on here because, like,
because nobody in the movie knows what's going on.
yeah, like you don't even know. A lot of conflict arises over Heather getting them lost, and you don't even know if Heather has actually gotten them lost. Really, they could be on track the entire time and just freaking themselves out. That kind of thing. They could have just freaked themselves out into being lost into this whole scenario.
I mean, have you ever been lost in the woods, Mitch? We know
No.
Vonn has, at least that one time in the
Yeah.
middle of the city.
Yeah. Oh, I've been lost in the woods plenty. I've been lost
Yeah.
in the mountains. I've been lost.
I'm a
I get
land
lost all the
surveyor.
time.
I am never lost.
I have a terrible
always
sense of
said
terrible
I,
sense of
I bad direction.
I don't know.
Can't even say it.
Dear high and low.
If I was Blair Witch, we would have left woods real fast.
The forest is green like your eyes.
My mother gave me a GPS for Christmas. If they'd only had that, they would be safe. The end.
They didn't have that in the 90s. I don't even think they had cell phones, these kids.
Yeah, I don't really know how Heather was even attempting to find her way through the forest. She kept looking at a map, but they were never talking about any sort of landmarks or anything. They just kind of are taking their best guess based on bearing. And
I feel with a map, you should be able to kind of figure it out.
Well,
Be like, oh, well, the river's here, such and such ridge is here. If you have a relief map, it shouldn't be fucking rocket science.
yeah, but it just seems
the
like they never
pioneers
did any.
did it.
Yeah, but they never made any of those points of reference or anything like that. They just always like stop in the middle of nowhere and be like, "We're here. We've been walking for 2 hours, so we're here." And like instead of here's where this river meets this cool rocky outcrop thing.
Well, later on, they're just walking in one direction. I think it's pretty implied that
something has to be working, though, because there's a couple landmarks that they want to hit up. They want to get to Coffin Rock, and they end up getting there. So obviously, they're able to read this map to the extent that they're able to hit up a couple of these landmarks early on.
you know what they should have been doing is following the sound of Saria's ocarina to get through the Lost Woods.
Man,
Because otherwise, you just keep getting
they
turned
kept
around.
going
in
through
there.
the one log and kept coming out the other log in the same place.
You end up back at Skull Kid.
Yeah.
Well, they get the whole group together here. It starts off at Heather's house. Heather and Josh hook up together. I think they know each other from before. They go to school together or something. Then they go to Mike's house, and seems like Heather hasn't met Mike before. They kind of introduce each other, and
But Mike and Josh kind of know each other.
yeah, they seem to have some kind of connections. They're going to be the threesome that goes into this woods.
Is this a student film or
She is a student,
I
a
got-
journalism or film student
Okay.
or something.
My impression was it was her like student film or something, but I don't know if she ever explicitly states that
Yeah.
at any point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all meeting up. Everybody seems like they're getting along fine. Josh is late, so that kind of sets them off on the wrong foot a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker or anything like that.
Yeah, they're all smokers. They're all drinkers. They're all kids in their early 20s.
Yeah.
It's not that hard for you guys to get out on the road and have a little bit of fun together anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some fun scenes throughout the movie, those kind of in-between scenes of them like in a hotel room at night or whatever, drinking scotch and
Yeah, you're
smoking a
essentially
doob or something.
like you're just going for a camping weekend with your buddies. You're going to do some hiking and you're going to shoot a movie while you do it.
This sounds
Should
like
be
so
fun.
much fun. Like
Yeah.
I would do this in a heartbeat if one of you guys wanted to do this kind of thing.
Dude,
Yeah.
I heard about a witch
Make a
out
little
by
documentary.
Vegreville that we can go check out.
Where?
Oh.
Out by Vegreville.
Seriously?
No?
Oh. Let's fucking go right now,
Do it anyways. Let's go haunt a woods.
Yeah, we should just go to the...
We just move the torture shack out there.
What's the most haunted place in Alberta, I wonder?
Mitchell, the High and Low Studios basement, I think.
I mean, makes sense.
I think we brought up the Charles Camsell Hospital. I think that's been
Yeah.
demolished now. And
It not just demolished. I was driving by it on Friday, and they have huge new developments up. There's like condos up,
Yeah?
and apartments already.
yeah, because there was I think some elders believe there were indigenous graves there or
Yeah.
unmarked graves.
My mom worked there, and she said that she never heard anything about that. But also, that seems to be what everybody is saying these days.
Yeah, because it was like a smallpox hospital or something back in the day, I think.
Yeah, that was a famous urban exploration place around here for a while.
We went in there.
We did, yeah. We went all the way to the top.
Didn't see any
Checked
ghosts.
out all the floors. No, but that place was creepy as fuck.
Lots of other people in there. There was like another group of teens.
Yeah.
And then there was like I don't know if he was a homeless guy who lived there or something, but he came up.
But
he
you
was-
took his life.
yeah. We were like, no one's going to miss him.
Shallow grave.
Taught him a lesson. He was like, I don't mind you guys poking around in here as long as you respect the place. And we're like, oh, yeah, no problem, sir.
Yeah, we were just checking it out, but it was something like out of 28 Days Later, where there's just graffiti on all the walls, garbage littering every corner, just total
Yeah.
disrepair.
And on the top floor, when we got to the top floor, it was just like filled with pigeons, just a room full of like 200 pigeons. And it was like,
Like
it was,
the ending of the birds.
And they weren't moving. I think maybe because it was a little bit colder out then, and maybe they were reserving their energy or something.
The
but it was
grossest
like,
part about urban exploration was the 2 inches of pigeon shit that you had to always walk
Yeah.
on inside those buildings.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting.
Yeah, pigeons are gross. Sometimes I've had to work under like railway bridges or something where pigeons are nesting, and there's just like bones and shit and all kinds of gunk and mess under them. Foul.
Pulled a whole fucking pile of pigeon corpses out of my chimney a couple years ago.
Man, they
no.
got
Like the
That's good
chimney, like from top to bottom was filled with pigeon corpses.
Why did pigeons? Is that just where pigeons went to die? I guess.
I guess. And now the pigeon elders are after me for
Man,
destroying their
they know.
their
Yeah.
sacred gravesite.
Smoked squab.
A chimney full of pigeons. You should have smoked them up and had a nice Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
Jesus, there was hardly no meat left on them.
Was there like strata of pigeons where like the ones on the bottoms were like mummified, and then as you got closer to the top, there's like a fresh, just recently dead pigeon?
I let my contractor deal with most of that.
Okay.
So how do
He
you
showed me
What do you do? A shop vac?
the garbage bags full that he pulled out with his work gloves.
I bet you he just keeps those in the back of his truck and shows those to every house he goes to. He's like, look at all these pigeons I got them out of your walls.
Somebody fucked them all too. Can you believe that?
We're gonna run
Some
a
of them are a
DNA
little
test.
sticky, but here you can wear these gloves. They're barely used.
What are these, gape gloves?
Do you guys want to hear some of the most haunted places in Alberta?
Sure.
Yeah.
This is the Halloween House of Horrors.
Yeah, this is spooky. Maybe these are places we could go explore. The Bellevue Underground Coal Mine.
I've heard of that.
It's from the
Yeah, in the Highlands area.
1900s, so you got to think like probably a lot of. That's a dangerous job, right? Coal miner.
I don't think you can access it anymore, but it's close to the Highlands Golf Course.
Okay.
Right by where I used to live.
Maybe we can find a secret, creepy tunnel, like going into the Paris catacombs or something.
Yeah.
And crawl our way into there. Drumheller's East Cooley School and Museum. I'm seeing a couple of schools
Is
on
that a
here.
residential school?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. That's a southeastern haunted location opened in 1930. It grew because the coal industry boomed in the area. So I think it was just a coal miner town school.
Nothing
That
spookier
coal's
than
haunted.
coal.
Yeah.
Don't go down that coal mine. That coal mine's haunted.
Why are these all
Spookiest
coal related?
fuel.
The coal mine, a school that opened next to the coal mine, another school. So yeah, if you want to find a ghost in Alberta, you have to
Look for the coal.
follow the coal. It's like how Santa leaves a lump of coal in your stocking.
Not at Luke's house. He just leaves a massive pigeon carcasses.
Who fucked these pigeon carcasses?
And
It took me 3 nights.
Santa,
At least when you cook them, they're not too dry.
yeah.
I always knew that Santa just fucked pigeons around the clock from Christmas to Christmas.
I don't think that's any of our business what Santa does on his off time. You know?
Careful, guys. He's listening.
He works very hard. A man's allowed to unwind.
There's a sock on the door.
Poor pigeons.
That Santa Claus is a lucky man.
Okay, what the fuck are we talking about? So, Heather, she's going around town. She's interviewing some people. She asks a waitress, have you heard of the Blair Witch? Sounds kind of familiar. My older sister went to Blair High School.
Yeah, just a bunch of townsfolks. You got the waitress in the diner, just some man on the street interviews with a couple of old folks about town, and a lady walking around with her kid. They've all got their various takes on the Blair Witch as they're being asked about it.
Everybody knows about it. Everybody's heard about the Blair Witch
Yeah.
in some way or another.
A couple of important plot points come about. There was like a psychomaniac who lived in Blair. One of the old guys is telling her, who like killed a bunch of children out there in the woods or something. And the lady with the kid is talking about the Blair Witch, how she saw it on the Discovery Channel.
Yeah, some of these stories are contradictory. It kind of all makes it feel real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows the truth about the Blair Witch. So far as we know, the Blair Witch doesn't leave any survivors. But that one person knew about standing in the corner and you can't look at the Blair Witch while it's eating your friend or whatever it does.
Yeah, because supposedly this maniac, this like Mr. Parr guy or whatever, who lived in the woods, one day he just came down out of the woods and he said, my work is done. And then like the cops went to his house and found 7 dead children. And apparently he would make them stand in the corners because he couldn't stand their eyes on him as he was committing his murders. And so he would like kill them one by one as the rest of them were standing in the corners looking away, which will pop up later.
I don't know if I like that guy.
Really, it's creepy. That's a
Not
good,
very nice.
good murderer thing to do.
That's not very nice.
Do
You
that.
haven't seen me upset.
This is why you guys are not cut out for the high and low dungeon, because you don't like seeing how the sausage gets made. Sometimes you got to make sure people are standing in the corners. You don't want their eyes on you.
So they're at the cemetery and they're doing the first slate of the documentary, right? Heather has her opening monologue.
A little bloodletting for the slate. They're all excited. Everybody's in high spirits at this point.
This is Burkittsville, formerly Blair. It is a small, quiet Maryland town, much like a small, quiet town anywhere. No more than 20 families laid their roots down here over 200 years ago, many of whom remain either on this hill or in the town below. There are an unusually high number of children laid to rest here, most of whom passed in the 1940s. No one in the town recalls anything unusual about this time, to us anyway, yet legend tells a different story.
I really like her reporter voice where she's like,
Yeah.
legend tells a different story.
Yeah.
She puts on an affectation when she's on the camera.
She's a little bit cheesy and a little bit insufferable, like a pretentious filmmaker type at various points throughout this movie, but I found it believable. Like, this is a person who could exist in the real world, and you can see how her behavior and her just kind of commitment to this documentary could annoy Josh and Mike as things are going along.
She's just such a suffering artist. She just needs to expose this story, and she's forcing everybody along for her will, for her project and passion.
Well, I'm glad she did, or else there wouldn't be a movie.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Man, it just goes to show you got to suffer for your.
She suffered for our art. We're sewing content from it.
We're making delicious content.
We're exploiting these 3 innocent teens, 20-year-olds, whatever they were.
Yes, we're making.
Fuck them. I'm glad they're dead.
They all kind of sucked, didn't they?
They could still be out there in these woods. I guess
Some say.
That's like the plot of the 2016 Blair Witch. Apparently, that's what it's about. Like, the guy at the beginning suspects it's like Heather's sister 20 years later or something, or her brother, and he sees some footage that he thinks could be her still out there in the woods skittering around. He's like, I'm gonna find her in the woods. Things that live in the woods skitter.
Yeah, and then eventually the townspeople turn her to Mary Brown, who's the crazy lady in town.
Yeah, Heather can't get over just how nutso and crazy this Mary Brown character is.
She didn't seem that crazy to me.
No, she seemed like
She's just an unattractive older woman.
Yeah. She's
Look at this crazy hag, everybody.
She's a malnourished mountain woman.
Go ahead, kids. Throw rocks at her. No. Not those ones. The big ones.
she can't feel pain.
She's a kook, a local eccentric, a local kook, you know? She lives in a shack out in the woods. She's a bit of a character, and she tells her story about the time that she met the Blair Witch. She was off fishing with her father when she was a young girl, and she looked up and she saw a woman come up. The woman had hair all over her, like a horse's hair all over her arm.
Like horse fur.
Yeah.
She keeps saying, like horse fur.
Like horse fur.
So she was
Horses
hairy
don't
from
have
head to toe.
fur. They have hair.
Yeah.
Horse hair.
She is crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust
Doesn't
a
know
word of it.
anything.
I thought she was a mountain woman. Isn't she supposed to, like, know animals and nature?
Like, is she a mountain woman?
Maybe not. Maybe she's
I think she just lives
I mean, you're not a mountain woman if you're not lying with a horse.
Yeah, or a mountain.
Or, yeah, a goat.
Yeah, but
or goat.
Wouldst thou like to fuck a horse?
the Blair Witch is...
Wouldst thou like to taste horse cock?
Are we to presume that the Blair Witch is a centaur? Because she's covered in horse fur. That's got to be like a centaur. Or
Old John Paul went up to the hills about 40, 50 years ago. Fucked a horse. His daughter's been running around all over these hills ever since that time.
like the Jersey Devil, killing people in the woods ever since.
Oh, man. I heard about the Jersey Devil when I was a kid, and that fucking scared me.
Yeah, old Mrs. Leeds gave birth to the Jersey Devil, and then it flew up the chimney out into the woods, the Pine Barrens of Jersey, where it still lives to this day, killing people.
And it had like a horse head, and it would like fucking come in through your window and scream ear-piercing screams.
Yeah,
I had nightmares about that fucking story.
There's drawings.
I don't
of it
even
and
live
stuff.
in Jersey.
It's got wings. It could fly to Edmonton if it wants to.
I love those spooky little critters.
I'm getting scared just listening to it.
Chupacabras.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
What do we have in
Ghoulies.
Canada? We have Ogopogo.
Hey, come over here, Chupacabra. Give me a fucking suck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the goat
I
sucker.
give you something to fucking suck on. Chupa this.
I'm not taking it out for air, Choopy.
That Chupacabra and Black Phillip match made in heaven.
Good point.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, in Canada we got Bigfoot. He lives, I think, some woods around the Rocky Mountains or something.
Is that just a Canadian thing, or is that a...
I think he lives in the Pacific Northwest in the States. And
The
stuff,
interesting thing about him is there are indigenous people all over the world who have similar legends.
Yeah, true. In the Himalayas,
Of course, it's all nonsense, and there's people who obsess over it like it matters, even if it were real. But
yeah,
Horse fuckers have existed as long as there have been
oh yeah,
horses and people to fuck them.
well, people are fucking Bigfoots too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can hear all those stories.
That's a popular genre of erotic fiction.
I was thinking about Art Bell a lot during both of these movies, but specifically Ghostwatch. But just like all the zany stories that, like, I would listen to Coast often and just hear stories about things like a Blair Witch or a poltergeist or somebody fucking a Bigfoot all the time. It was just top tier entertainment.
Yeah, I'll still throw up a Ghost to Ghost AM. That was the Art Bell's yearly Halloween episode where callers would call in with all their ghost stories. Listen to that every now and then.
Caller coming in from the west of the Rocky Line. He says that, yeah, hi, Art. I'm calling. I saw Santa Claus come and fuck about 10, 12, 15 pigeons and then flew away.
He put them in a guy's chimney.
We're getting a lot of reports about Santa Claus fucking pigeons tonight for some reason. Yes, hello. This is Mrs. Claus from the North Pole.
First time caller
My
from
husband-
our North Pole line.
My husband and I haven't been talking very much. We haven't been intimate together in a long time.
Anytime I want to get intimate with him, he makes me put on a beak, little
Makes
tail
me
feathers.
coo.
Okay.
We got to talk about the movie.
Yeah, Mary Brown, she's crazy. Her dad went fishing.
Oh yeah, she saw the Blair Witch when she was a girl, saw all the hair over the Blair Witch's arm, and then the Blair Witch opened up its cloak. It was wearing like a witchy cloak. Its whole body was covered with even more hair.
It was covered with hair from head to toe. Yes, that's right. Head to toe.
This is the first person they've talked to who's actually seen the Blair Witch. They go back to the hotel. They're a little dismissive of her. They think she's a local eccentric, a bit of a kook, but they're having fun in the hotel. So far, their mission has been a success. They've got their first scene shot. They're having some scotch and celebrating a little bit and planning out the rest of their days.
And this was kind of funny because when they were shooting the Mary Brown interview, I was thinking this fucking cameraman doesn't know what he's doing because half of Mary Brown's head was always out of shot. It was out of focus a lot of the time and stuff like this. And then when they get back to the hotel, they start having an argument about that because she's like, I thought you knew how to use this thing.
Which was a legitimate thing that happened because these actors were actually filming the scene and he didn't know how to use the camera. And so it wasn't intended for that scene to be out of focus or whatever. That's just something that happened and that just gave them fodder to have a conflict point in this next scene.
Just another one. It's just a minor little thing, but you can understand how after a day of being trapped in the woods together, they would already be at each other's throats because they're getting along fine enough, but they are kind of having these little tits and arguments here and there.
And kudos to the actors for having the chops to be improvisational enough to pull this kind of thing off.
But it's still all good, and they're just having some drinks of whiskey right now and having a good time. They're going to head out into the woods the next morning.
And then the next morning, there's another little point of conflict because Heather, right first thing in the morning, has the camera in Mike's face, and he's like, I'm not ready for that thing yet. Can you, get that out of my face? That's going to be another one of the main sources of conflict that pop up throughout this movie again and again is Heather kind of hiding behind the camera, and they don't want to be necessarily filmed when they're lost in the woods, tense and everything. And
one thing I appreciate about this movie is there's no sexual tension.
Yeah, it's just a group of college kids
totally
hanging out.
platonic.
Yeah,
I feel like if I was in this situation, I'd fuck anybody around me. But we're definitely gonna die here.
We've been lost for 9 hours. I gotta fuck something.
That tree has a hole in it from a woodpecker.
Maybe that's just me. I'm in my slut era.
Lord, he's been lost in the woods for one night and already his fucker flight instinct has been activated.
Come here.
Is that what happened to Santa? It's all adding up.
So they come across two men that are fishing in the creek. You damn fool kids will never learn.
What's that? I like how she's like, sorry, what did you say? And he repeats it louder. It's like, I said, you damn cool kids will never learn.
Care to elaborate, sir?
Classic old coos.
So they say some girl in the late 1800s wandered off and disappeared into the woods. Okay, that was a long enough time ago that you can probably forget about that.
They also say that there was one of them with his very own eyes saw a vapor that rose out of the water, not 100 feet from where they are right now, and it climbed up a tree and disappeared. He's like, I wasn't even drinking that day, neither.
Sounds like you were drinking that day.
Sounds credible.
Yeah.
These two guys, they have a good little rapport. They reminded me of early Trailer Park Boys, where the acting's like not really that good, and they haven't really figured out what they want to do with the roles, and they're kind of a little uncomfortable in front of the camera and just kind of happy to be being filmed too. They have little smirks when they're talking.
Yeah, and they're
I'd say this all of this movie reminds me of Trailer Park Boys a little bit.
There's definitely a Trailer Park Boys vibe. Yeah, maybe Trailer Park Boys is the other most legitimate found footage film I've seen.
It is a mockumentary, right?
Yeah.
More akin to The Office than
Or akin to
true.
Christopher Guest.
Then the Blair Witch.
But it does have that same feeling of the non-professional actors in an unusual setting on a micro budget.
Yeah.
Oh man, that guy who plays Leahy, fantastic actor.
I am Rand.
How was he not anointed with the Order of Canada?
Yeah, what the heck?
That's a fucking travesty.
And
That
he's
man
such a
is dead.
beloved character.
Yeah.
Stuck up royal.
Are they the ones who hand it out?
I don't know.
Probably the Governor General.
I don't know, but I blame Meghan Markle.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's she doing?
And Prince Andrew.
What have you done for me lately besides make a podcast?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Making podcasting just a little more popular and then bailing on it immediately.
We got to get Meghan Markle. We got to kill her on the charts. Someone's got to insert gunshot sounds.
Oh, I thought you meant get her on the pod.
No way, man.
Interview
We're
her?
going to get her ass.
Let's steal her audience.
Yeah. No, not kill her. Just like kill her career-wise.
Yeah, Ruth, like business.
I don't even know what she has. Like, what is her career? She's just famous at this point. That's what being a royal is these
Yeah,
days?
you don't need
I
don't
heard
need to work.
No, you just
She
show up at
started-
engagements.
a company for like scented candles. She started a goop like Gwyneth Paltrow company.
Some badge candles.
I think you put them in there in your body part, in your orifice, and then you light the candle and it takes the toxins out. Probably.
Do you need gape gloves first?
You need some kind of hygienic gloves. Gape glove, or one of those gloves that the police snap on their hand when they're about to put their finger in your cavities. Those kind of gloves.
Latex?
Yeah, latex glove.
Those are doctors, Mitchell. Doctors do that.
If you don't have latex gloves, sheepskin works.
Well, we got word that there is a bus full of drugs, so we had to do a full body cavity search on everybody. I inspected 12 individuals myself.
Say,
This pigeon shit covered overpass is a strange place for a doctor's office, but go ahead, have a look.
3 strange doctors with liquor on their breath gave me an examination.
Okay, first one's out of the way. Now say ah. Are you gonna change your gloves first? No, I only have one pair.
So the crew park at the side of the road and get all their hiking gear together. We say goodbye to their immaculate 1997 Dodge Daytona.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I miss seeing those cars. I knew some people in high school who had those. Those were pretty pimp.
Fancy.
It looks like a reliable little thing. You know, you can fit all your camera equipment and hiking gear in there.
They're quick too.
I don't know how either one of these kids must be a little rich boy or something like that, because this car is only like a year old when they're getting it, so
Yeah.
that's not cheap.
They just kind of park it just on the side of the road, and that's it. They're on foot for the rest of the movie, hiking.
Ostensibly, they're going to be doing a bit of a loop. They got a couple locations they want to pick up, and then go out to this graveyard, go to this other place, and then come back to the cars. It's going to be kind of a big sort of circle, or so they think.
They want to go to a place called Coffin Rock. That's an ominous name.
It's a fine enough name. I mean,
I'd want to go to like Cotton Candy Rock or something like that. I'm not going to Coffin Rock.
Guys, I'm scared. Let's go to Cotton Candy Rock.
just getting lost in the most charmed forest ever. Welcome to Cotton Candy Rock. Oh, and there's the marshmallow bubbling brook. And
Yeah.
Ooh, Ice Creamville. No, it's Screamville.
There's Chocolate Bar Bridge.
They know something. Heather's saying, I'm totally on track. I know where I'm going. She's like the map keeper in this scenario at the moment. They've got one map amongst them, so she's sort of leading the trek, and things are going along. Josh and Mike are starting to trust her judgment a little less, her ability to navigate, not get them lost. But it seems to be working out at first, because they do make it to Coffin Rock.
Yeah.
Something's going right.
Yeah, they make it out there, get their shot, and here's where we kind of get the next little bit of documentary footage.
Coffin Rock, it looks like it's just like a cave, and so she's standing outside of this cave with like a dark opening. Maybe it's a coal mine.
They went into the woods prepared to find death. What they found was a desecration to humanity, at the site which trappers often refer to as Coffin Rock. On top of the rock formation, the story of the fortune inflicted upon these 5 men unfolded. Each was bound to the other, each man's hands bound to the next man's feet, forming a solid structure out of the men. It sounds like an early human centipede.
Yeah.
Blood.
I'm picturing, like, is that what, like, the Blair Witch twig is supposed to be? You know, that, like, twig structure that gets tied up everywhere? Is that, like, supposed to be a man bound to the feet of another man or whatever they're describing here? It's whatever your mind fills in, I guess.
There were thousands of bottles of lubrication and Bad Boy Records posters everywhere.
That's not illegal.
There's no explanation for that.
Sheriff found the carnage, the walls of Coffin Rock slick with baby oil.
They also found copies of the High and Low podcast, whatever that is.
And 3 threadbare pairs of Sean John pants.
Made powerful enemies.
Yeah, come on. Blood at the edge of the hedges had indicated that this act had been committed while each was alive and able-bodied enough to struggle. In the torso of each man, the intestines had been torn out crudely. On each man's sun-bleached face was inscribed indecipherable writing cut into the flesh with an eerie precision. The men, still entranced by the horror of what had happened, left the scene to tell the sheriff what had happened and did not sketch the writing and did not remove the bodies from the rock. Upon returning, vultures were seen at the rock. There was also a big red hat with a white pom-pom and a large...
The pigeons were tied together.
Yeah, she's going through like the full police
Beak
report.
to mouth, mouth to ass, beak to ass.
It was an unseasonably cool day that October when the men's bleached face... Yeah, she's droning on.
The search party claimed that the stench of death was still thick. What does that mean? And whoever took the bodies had done so in a matter of hours.
Did you guys ever smell the stench of death? By the woods, by my office, I think something big crawled off in there and died one day, and it's stinky. I don't care for it.
I've dealt with a rotting mouse carcass or two before in the warehouse. I was like, it stinks in this corner, and found like a bunch of rotting rodents.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I have too. Mice mostly.
Yeah.
Some others.
I found a mummified mouse in a mouse trap that I had forgotten about. It had basically turned into a skeleton.
Well, that's fine, because once it gets to that point, then it stops stinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
turns
I'd still
into
rather
dust.
a mummy chase me than a wolf man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Mummy's not agile.
Mummies, you just got to step on the
Yeah.
wrapping.
It's like when you grab a thread from a sweater and you just keep pulling. If you pull that mummy's wrap, he just falls apart eventually. If you pull a mummy's wrap off, is he just an invisible man under his some
Like
other...
a skeleton of sorts.
Oh,
A
yeah.
mummified corpse.
Wait, come here, mummy. They're talking about you on the podcast.
Pull her wrap off.
Hello, Secret Service. There's people talking about taking Nancy's wraps off.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten a call from those guys yet.
We just have the one hole in the wraps. That's the suck hole.
Chupacabras. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is where the movie kind of falls into a bit of a pattern where you get like a day scene, a night scene, a hiking scene, and it's going to be like, you know, the next 4 days of them sort of camping overnight here.
Have
And
you guys done backcountry camping like this before?
no, not really. No, I've never gone hiking with just my big pack.
Me and my friend Zach, we went one time and did an overnight trip out in the mountains, and we had the fucking scare of our lives. And it was like this. It was fucking pouring rain. We had to set everything up in the rain. It was fucking cold. It was miserable. We finally like get into our tent, managed to like have a few sips of whiskey and pass out. And something came and fucking attacked our tent in the middle of the night. It just like shook
Good
our
God.
tent, fucking ripped it, like completely collapsed it. We were just kind of rolled up in the fabric of the tent, just like screaming
Jesus. My God.
and like just praying for our fucking lives. We still have no idea what it was. Could have been a bear, could have been a moose, could have been an eagle that flew into our tent. I have no fucking idea. I think it was probably a bear.
That
But
seems like a bear
Yeah.
type activity.
we just like were petrified, and we just stayed there while this thing just like attacked us. And
Yeah.
it didn't seem to make much sound, and then it was gone, and then we were just kind of laying there in the rain and in the mud, freezing to death and scared shitless.
Jesus.
Till sunrise.
On
Like
second
packed
thought,
up all our shit and like went to town and got a hotel and ate some mushrooms and told the tale of how we almost died out on the fucking trail in the wilderness.
maybe I won't go backcountry camping.
I know what it feels like to be feeling that helpless out in the woods like they are here, and
Yeah.
especially when the fucking weather's bad. Like there's just nothing you can do to stay dry.
You don't have to go far. I've never done backcountry camping, but I've done some deep walks, like some walks in pretty thick woods, and you don't have to go far to just feel like you have no idea where you are. Like you go 100 meters in, 200 meters in, you can barely hear any sort of highway or road noise, and you're just totally isolated.
And it's so dark you can't see the hand in front of your face on a cloudy night.
Yeah.
And like that night was cloudy. You like if even when we like peeked, I opened up the zipper and looked outside, like I couldn't see a thing. Just completely blind, and I was too scared to fucking turn on the lantern. And besides, you turn it on, it just makes you blinder. Like, man.
Did you guys ever consider that maybe you were attacked by a Blair Witch in the night?
Yeah, the thought crossed my mind.
Yeah, that's what I.
Didn't see any weird rock piles outside.
Okay.
Maybe some sort of Ogopogo.
Yeah.
We got.
Was it Bigfoot?
I fucked a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I had only had a couple of sips of whiskey.
Yeah, we came back into town, and we just started telling everybody about the story. Yeah, there's a Bigfoot. I fucked it. He fucked it. We all fucked it.
He didn't need gape gloves. His hands was perfectly grippy.
It's natural. He uses his feet for that. His big giant feet.
I gave birth to a Bigfoot baby. It's like a Weekly World News cover story.
I was a bride of Bigfoot.
I miss seeing those in the supermarket checkouts.
Yeah,
Yeah, those
magazines
are
are just
great.
so much more depressing now. It's just
know.
always I guess recently it's the 20th anniversary of somebody's death. I don't know who, but it's always somebody looking back on how they were unjustly killed.
John Benet Ramsey.
No, she comes up a lot.
That
The
was-
Kennedys do. I've
Yeah.
been seeing a lot of Matthew Perry lately. A lot of headlines that are like "Justice for Matthew Perry." I'm like, for what? I mean,
Justice.
it's just sad. But like,
Justice.
Somebody got revenge on that swimming pool.
I am justice.
He was my favorite friend.
The
I always thought that I was a Chandler.
Could I be any matter?
yeah, he's the most relatable.
I relate to him because I'm also an alcoholic.
Yeah, he loved Vicodin too.
No, seriously though, my heart goes out to him.
Well, it just bums me out that people just all they do is they profit off of these people's deaths, and it's the hackiest type of writing where you just pick somebody who died, write some bullshit, and it's all according to fourth-hand sources that
We all miss Michael Jackson too, but like, how many times are we going to relitigate his death?
But that's why the Weekly World News fun, because it would have Michael Jackson
Yeah.
lives, and he's hanging out with Elvis
And Bat
Tupac.
Boy.
Bat Boy.
Yeah,
I love Bat Boy.
And you'll never guess who's fucking who.
I've told you, Bat Boy is not my kid.
Bat Boy laid his eggs. Michael Jackson.
That's Batman. Robin laid.
I thought that was your
Robin
Elvis
laid an
impression.
egg.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Batman lost a wheel.
The Batmobile
Yeah.
lost the wheel.
As I recall.
And the Joker took ballet.
Oh, I thought the Joker got away.
I've heard both versions.
I've heard both too.
Yeah.
The Joker skipped down the stairs to a pedophile's song.
Ba-dum-ba-da-do.
Hey, we fuck kids.
Yeah. Wait.
Not high and low.
Gary Glitter does, people.
All that glitters is not gold, okay?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, nothing that glitters can stay.
And the Joker
Beautiful.
took ballet. So
All right.
they've set up camp in the rain, and they're little bummed out about being in there and wet. Heather's kind of griping because she's not allowed to smoke in the tent, and but Mike can fart all he wants.
Yeah, he's making farts, but they're kind of having fun. Nothing scary has happened to them yet. They haven't gotten lost yet, so the novelty of camping in the woods, they're still having fun with it, and they're still kind of excited to be out there doing it, making a documentary, you know? The first night is when the stuff starts happening because they hear noises in the night. Joshua does. He says he hears 2 noises in the night. One of them might have been an owl, but one of the noises was definitely cackling. He heard something cackling
There
out
are
there.
like 2 separate noises coming from 2 layers of space.
Yeah, that's an odd way to put it.
But I get what he's coming at. Yeah.
So, do you guys, is there any kind of animals that cackle?
Hyenas.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't it have been a hyena?
I think that's the only thing that it could have been.
Yeah, that's the only cackler I can think of in the animal kingdom. But you would think that maybe there's some kind of weird bird out there that can clack its beak. And
They
such.
call him the cackler.
Yeah, no idea.
No, you got me there.
And there's a little light teasing happening here. Joshua and Mike's Heather about getting them lost. It's not a source of major contention.
Yeah,
yet,
so we
though.
find out that they actually started hiking off the map. So it sounds like they parked in the wrong spot to begin with. And then their first chunk of their hike was off map, and Heather was just trying to do her best guess
Been there.
where they were. Yeah, if you miss that turn, you don't want to turn around on the highway and go back another couple kilometers. Just take the next one.
Yeah, you just go park and hike.
So they're hiking. Mike's getting grumpy. He takes off his shirt, and they're laughing at his sporadic chest hair. And then Joss is like, look, there's Paraguay, and there's Uruguay. I don't know. That's a weird thing to point at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this like it's like a Rorschach test? You look at the chest hair, whatever you see in the chest hair says more about you than it does about the chest hair itself.
Yeah, so you are gay. That's what he's
Yeah.
saying. Josh is gay. And there's a shot of Heather taking a piss in the woods. Like this kind of just them being normal, just
Yeah.
doing normal things.
They're having a laugh.
Is that the Blair Witch? No, it's Heather taking a piss.
Yeah. And this movie is filled with that sort of what in a normal movie you might call almost like second unit footage or something. Just like you give these kids some cameras and they'll just be filming a bag of marshmallows at some point in a convenience store. It's not a shot that would appear in a normal movie. It's shots that would happen when you give some goofy actors the cameras and send them out on a road trip and having fun.
Yeah, and all this stuff
totally
humanizes them. Doing what any of us would do on a road trip like this. You pick up Slim Jim, and it's like, oh, hey, look, it's my dong. You just fuck around in the convenience store like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pick up a gas pump. Hey, look, it's my dong.
Always worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm taking a piss.
Like the camera's my dog.
Hey, look, it's my dong.
Heather's stuck up. She's like, don't film me while I'm taking a piss.
So Mike and Josh are suspicious that Heather's gotten them lost again, and tensions are kind of rising. Mike and Heather bicker while Joshua tells them he knows where they're going.
Like every time they talk about where they're going, it's just like, it's just another couple hours, another 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Like every...
Yeah, they don't trust Heather anymore.
No.
No, and it's interesting.
She says she knows.
Like, she says she knows. Joshua says he knows. Mike admits it's Greek to him, this map, and he can't read it. But we as the audience, we actually don't know what the situation is. Like, are Mike and Joshua just freaking out here, imagining that they're lost? Maybe Heather is on the right track, this map, but they're starting to have that feeling. She's saying that they're on a trail throughout this. She's like, this is a trail, even though it's overgrown and it just looks like we're out in the middle of the woods. This is Cemetery Trail, guys.
Right.
We went to Coffin Rock, and now here's This is the worst woods ever.
Yeah, none of the trails are particularly well trod or anything like that. So it could be a trail that's just nobody's using a bit.
3 or 4 times they have to go across some kind of creek from various...
Yeah, they're creeks. They're not really rivers.
No.
They're kind of rivers.
There's one that's like
One's pretty
bigger,
large, but a lot of them are pretty small.
The rest of them are sort of just like tiny little things. There's always a convenient log that's fallen over that you can use as bridge.
It's not that convenient. You just go until you find a log.
That's typical. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I've forded many a river.
Yeah.
And
Carrying my wagon trains across to this west.
Got
What came
cholera
we to
plenty
this
of times.
wilderness to find?
you did a portage.
Yeah. So they come across a pile of rocks tied up to a tree with twigs and things, and there's little piles of rocks on the ground. And they're like, this looks like an Indian burial ground.
This is the first sort of strain
Yeah.
craft.
Yeah. Weird
Something unnatural. right?
artifacts
Yeah.
and things laying around.
The
And
Blair Witch craft. She's
Yeah.
into like arts and crafts. She probably makes glue stick
The
reindeers.
Blair Witch would 100% be an influencer these days. Just talking about cottagecore,
handmade
shit like that.
gifts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like Meghan Markle, she would have her own scented candle chain.
Yeah.
Or a Gwyneth
That
Paltrow.
smell like her pussy.
Yeah,
That's what
made
Gwyneth
with,
Paltrow has.
made with wax from the...
Did you guys get any of her pussy candles, by the way?
Yeah,
I-
you sent them to us. That was very nice.
Okay, yeah, good. I was
thought
wondering
it was
if you
good.
got them.
Thank you. Yeah, it came a little bit after Christmas, but I was still happy to get it.
Yeah, okay,
I
good.
thought it was incredible. I bought one of those rocks that she sells on her website. That you can put those in your, vagina. I don't have one of those, but there's other places I can put it.
Her steamer was overpriced, but it's worth the money.
Yeah, makes you feel fresh.
Took all the folds out of mine.
They take the wrinkles out of your balls.
My balls look like that guy who got the keratin treatment on his hair.
They're shiny.
Just an Anton Chigurh ball hair.
So anyway, they have a fire and a little chat about Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, they're talking about
And
the
that-
skipper.
oh, you're the captain. You should know it's not the captain, it's the skipper. And it was like in the 90s, it was like so funny to reference old
Yeah.
sitcoms.
No different than that scene in Stand By Me when the boys are having a campfire at night and they're talking about is Goofy a dog and, just Mickey Mouse.
Those like reference
Smooch.
points that are still there. Like,
Yeah.
we talk about like minions and their juicy little cocks and
Yeah. How they're
Jiggly
always-
asses.
Whatever they do, farting.
Pam,
yeah, I don't know.
Pam and Jim, love of a century.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, one for the ages. So in the night, they knock over a strange stone pile, and Heather fixes it.
Yeah, maybe is this where they have incurred the wrath of the Blair Witch?
Yeah.
Will their nightly hauntings intensify after this?
Yeah, Heather hears a noise in the night and goes out with the camera in the pitch black, trying to track it down.
She is forever. Every night, whenever she hears a sound in the woods, her first instinct is to jump out of the tent, run off into the dark in the woods. After this noise, that could be any number of things. A pack of wolves.
Get out her shitty camera that's not going to shoot farther than 10 feet in pitch black.
Yeah, Mike and Josh are a little more reserved in their reactions a lot of the time. Seems like
The move is to stay put in the tent and just like
it just makes no sense.
just cry and beg for your life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my move.
It worked.
That's my policy.
That's a signature move.
So daytime, it's another rainy, miserable morning, and Mike and Josh are like, "Can you believe Heather was going after that noise last night?" Mike's like, "Those are probably just locals fucking around with us at night." And like, "You ever seen Deliverance? Like, we got to
Yeah.
get out of here."
Yeah, they're going to get
Yeah.
fucked.
I just rewatched Deliverance. That movie's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, I gotta
Yeah,
check-
it's pretty cool.
It's on my list.
It's so good. They don't know where the fuck they're going. They'd stop and do a map reading. Heather insists they're on the right track, but Josh is reading the map differently, and they're just having a big argument.
Poor Mike, he doesn't know any better.
Yeah, Mike's so stupid.
Yeah, and now they're really starting to get frustrated with Heather. That now that the arguments are getting more intense, and everybody's getting pissed off with Heather recording things more and more, and they're just like, get us home, turn the camera off and get us home.
Yeah, I understand that.
Totally. Then they have another argument. Now, this is the point in the movie where you're really like, this is at least an hour of this movie is just them yelling at each other in the woods. Just three people getting into shitty arguments.
And Mike initially seems to be the weak link psychologically. He's the guy who's freaking out the most and just doesn't have it together. He's just screaming out into the sky. Like, there's nothing productive in his reaction. Like, he's not at the phase where he's actively thinking, how do I get out of the woods? He's just, like, screaming and freaking out through a lot of the early we're lost scenes.
Man, Mike sucks big time.
Yeah.
He does.
I hate this guy.
He gets it together a little. It's nice as things go along. The dynamic will flip at a certain point, and like Joshua's freaking out a little bit at one point, and Mike and Heather sort of have to keep it together, and Mike holds it down during that time. And
Yeah, Mike's like, just give him a minute. Like, just give him 5 minutes. Don't go
Yeah.
right in his face with the camera right now. And Heather's like, but I gotta record it. I gotta get his face. I gotta get his snot bubbles.
And
This is good footage.
it's their second night of camping. They've experienced a little bit of creepiness, but this is where things are escalating rapidly, and they're not pumped to be spending another night in the woods, but they do.
They
And then
have to. Once it's dark out there, you're fucked. You gotta set up your tent, your camp.
more crashing in the woods. Mm-hmm. Heather again.
Ventures out with the cameras. You don't see shit.
No,
Is it a deer? I don't think it's deer, man. It's crashing on all sides of us.
just a camera with a camera light kind of randomly pointing in all directions in the darkness in the woods.
Yeah, the sound's doing pretty much all the heavy lifting right here, and the actors are, doing a
Yeah.
pretty good job selling that they're scared or freaked freaked out.
The sound design in it is really good.
Yeah, it's
and to
effective.
see this in a theater, I bet it would be really effective.
And night after night, the filmmakers were fucking with the actors in various ways that the actors didn't spec. Okay, tonight we're going to shake their tent and see how they react to that. Tonight we're going to leave like weird sticks outside of their tent and see how they react to that. There was one video we were watching that was saying they even had a creepy woman in a white dress just standing in the woods at one point. Like, there'll be a scene where Heather's running in the woods and she looks over and she says, "What the fuck is that?" Like,
Yeah.
apparently there was actually a woman in a bridal gown standing there, but you don't actually...
I would shit.
yeah.
They were supposed to get that on film, but they
Yeah,
forgot to pan the camera
Josh
over.
didn't get it.
It's actually better that he
It's a
didn't
one
get
take.
it.
It's a one take movie. They
Yeah.
don't fucking go for a second take.
Yeah.
That was
Everything
it.
has to feel fresh and authentic. And props to that.
Yeah.
And that would almost actually ruin the whole movie for me if there was definitive proof of a supernatural threat in me. Because every time I watch this movie, I actually appreciate it more. And so much of that is just me speculating on what is actually going on, which I suspect might just be a bunch of crazy locals, like woods people messing with them. But we don't really know. You don't ever really know. There's another cool theory that's kind of interesting, which is that Mike and Josh are actually just fucking with Heather throughout this whole thing. And if you piece the evidence throughout the movie together in a certain way, that kind of does make sense.
It's plausible, except Josh disappearing.
He does disappear, and then
And
there's
like, where would he go? What's he gonna do? Sleep outside just to fuck with her all night?
well, I think the speculation is that he disappears from the group at a certain point, and he goes to that creepy house. And then from there on, Mike is kind of leading Heather to that creepy house where Josh is waiting for them. And that Mike and Josh have kind of actually do know where they're going throughout some of this.
Still,
And-
if you're Josh, you're like, you're gonna go that far for a joke that you're gonna sleep on the floor of that fucking rat-infested fucking
Yeah.
creepy-ass house?
It was probably a really comfy little bed tucked away somewhere.
yeah.
Sure didn't look like it,
No.
man.
And you
Yeah,
know,
I don't know if I buy that theory either. It's just a little too much to do. When the simplest explanation is that they either just encountered some sort of woods psychosis or
Yeah,
or there is a witch
freaked
out
themselves
there.
out.
Probably the biggest chunk of evidence for that is that it really does seem to be, for the most part, Josh and Mike against Heather. They're both very antagonistic towards Heather more than each other early on anyways.
Yeah.
And for a lot of it. But Heather's also annoying as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. But is that...
It is low-key a feminist movie, I think.
She is the boss of the group.
And the men don't like that.
No, it's true. Yeah.
They just don't respect her just purely, I think, because she's a...
Are you sure you can read that map? There isn't really too much reason for them
Yeah.
to think that they're lost early on. Unless Heather's like, it's only going to be 20 minutes, and then 8 hours later, they're still middle of fucking nowhere.
And I think maybe she's also overcompensates a little as a result of being like the woman in this group with two
Yeah.
other guys, where
Yeah.
she's like, I have to assert myself more as a result, and I
Yeah.
have to like be more bossy and
Have to constantly try and reassert her dominance.
Yeah. I'm not
lost out here with you. You're lost out here with me.
I know exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
It's another
So
morning.
another
There's
morning.
more piles of rocks around.
Ooh, spooky. So, tensions, they just keep rising, and they just want to pack up and leave. They're on a time crunch.
These rocks are particularly creepy because there's 3 of them, one for each of them,
Yeah.
put around the perimeter of their tent. So that's pretty ominous.
Yeah.
Slightly. Josh was like, I'm not scared. I'm just tired. I'm hungry. I'm fucking done.
Yeah, I get it.
I know. I totally. That's like the realest fucking attitude in this movie.
I've had
Yeah.
rough field days where we've gotten lost and like they've just gone way longer than they should have, and by the end of it, it's just like fuck, just get me back to the
everything.
truck so I can go and have a shower and go to bed. Do
Yeah.
this all again the next day.
Yeah.
Round 2.
But yeah, now Heather can't find the map. Mike is pissed. That is so not cool.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Mike.
Well, it's another interesting thing because they haven't been trusting Heather with the map, so they've been doing these map checks where Josh will take a look at the map too. So the map has been exchanging hands between the group now for a while.
Yeah, but supposedly Heather has a spot where she always puts the map, and they have a routine where the map goes back to Heather and she puts the map in a specific pocket. This
She's-
time, it's not there, and so now they're really starting to get at each other's throat.
And she's
the map.
in, she's
the map. I'm the map. I don't know if you
Insisting.
guys watch Dora.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh, I'm the map.
I love that map guy.
a swiper, no swiping.
Pretty fun.
Coffin rock, shanty, death. One more time. Uno, dos, tres. Coffin rock, shanty, death.
We're taking the
Say it
cemetery
with
trail. Coffin rock.
It's the haunted bridge again.
Gotta cross the stream. Don't get your fucking jeans wet.
Not again. Heather insists that Josh had the map last, and I never went back in the movie to look at like the last map check scene, but that would be interesting to check out just to see who
I think it was Josh.
he did have his hands on the map last.
Yeah.
It makes sense. As things unfold, more stuff gets revealed about this map.
That is so not cool, Heather.
Yeah.
Everybody's just dumping on her.
Yeah, poor
They're-
Heather.
they're
I haven't
going-
seen Heathers get it this bad since Heathers.
Yeah, they think Heather's
Hey,
done.
Heather, you need help dealing with these creeps?
Why don't you just...
Why don't we just blow up the whole forest, Heather?
Heather makes Josh and Mike stand in two circles, write a letter about being gay together.
So now they're good and fully lost. Josh is lying on the ground. I'm just going to lay here. Mike's just freaking out how they're all going to die.
Yeah, he's doing his screaming routine. They've gone a little psycho here, but they also kind of pull it together here where Josh gets up and he's like, okay, look, no more backbiting and pointing the finger at each other. Who got who lost?
We've got
to
to work together, damn it.
Yeah, if we want to get out of here, like we've got to be a team and not worry about that stuff anymore.
Yeah, they are where they are. They got to figure out how to get out of there.
Yeah, and that's when they're crossing a stream. Mike has a good laugh when Heather gets wet. And, like, these guys are all wearing jeans. That's the one really amateur thing I'm seeing here. Like,
Big
why are you wearing
mistake.
jeans?
Did they have any pants that weren't jeans back
Like, what are you, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
We're Gen X, man.
I go hiking and find moose carcasses in jeans.
I saw that.
I'm the Blair Witch. I have my aids. Put bundles of sticks around.
I heard that Robert Kennedy sawed the head off of Blair and brought it home for a prank.
I heard,
Brainworms demanded it.
yeah, didn't he strap a Blair Witch? I had this Blair Witch to the roof of his car and drive home with the carcass strapped to his roof the whole time?
He left it in Central Park.
His kids are like, Dad, you're so embarrassing.
That's my dad.
Could he be any more even?
He always gets up to that kind of stuff.
And his wife, speaking of improvised actors, Cheryl Hines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, she's wonderful on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, I always wonder what she makes of all this.
I don't know. I don't know what she's doing with that fucking guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be like a funny guy. It'd be funny to know a guy who like cuts the head off a whale.
Oh, I would absolutely hang out with RFK Jr. Like, I don't think I'd vote for him.
My head would explode after an afternoon of him just spewing the most insane bullshit I've ever heard in my
Yeah.
life.
There's a good chance he's crazy, but he could be fun to hang out with.
Oh, yeah.
Good hang for sure.
Dude, but you have to,
Me,
you
Diddy,
have
all
to
the
do
boys.
push-ups.
Yeah, well, if I can keep my jeans on.
Put your jeans on. We're going hiking.
Okay, now change into your swimming jeans.
I went for a day hike in jeans one time, and we went up the mountain. We were about 20 minutes in, and all of a sudden, it's flurries. And it was like May, and then we're in waist deep snow, and our fucking jeans are coated in snow and ice.
Yeah.
And we're like,
God.
we are ill prepared. Let's turn around.
Nothing better to hike in than the most water-absorbent material ever made.
You don't work out in jeans. You don't hike in jeans.
They're good for coal mining.
The only thing you do in coal mining, sure, practicing your
You
swivel
can work
kicks.
on cars in jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swivel kicks. You can be a badass in jeans, so you need to practice your kicks a little bit. But
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see those Chuck Norris action jeans?
oh hell yeah,
There's like an ad for
got a
them.
closet full of them.
They're great because I think they stretch around the crotch so you can throw a good kick with them.
I never understood how that guy kicked it with those jeans on all the time.
you
That's,
know.
like, that's amazing.
I think it's just like the waist part is just a little bit higher, so it just kind of
Oh, yeah.
gives his legs extra mobility.
I tear the crotch out of my jeans just getting into my truck. Like, I don't know how you're doing all this stuff in jeans.
Dude, I can barely walk through a door with jeans because I always try to cut the corner too sharp and my belt loop will get caught on the door latch. I've ripped so many pairs of jeans doing that.
I'm just
Right.
visualizing you coming to pick your kid up from daycare and your jeans
Belt.
just ripping off completely.
Fuck, not again.
Hi, my name's Vonn. I'm supposed to tell everybody in the neighborhood that I'm a registered sex offender.
Well, I mean, the first time it's a plausible accident.
Yeah.
times 2 through 6, a bit less so. But then once you get into double digits, then they start taking it personal.
If you would stop wearing those giant belt buckles you love so much, those Texas-sized belt buckles, maybe they wouldn't get caught on
Yeah, the big one that says "Don't tread on me." Vote RFK.
gets caught everywhere.
Well, I don't know why they hate my 40-gallon hat with the Confederate flag taped all around it.
Stop the steal.
It's a cultural thing. It's a Northern Alberta cultural thing.
So this is when Mike, he admits that he kicked the map into the creek yesterday. He's like, I fucking kicked it.
So he's like full on space madness at this point.
Yeah.
He's like, it wasn't doing us any good.
I kicked that fucker into the creek.
He's having such a good.
Yeah.
And again, you don't know. Maybe it was doing them good, maybe it wasn't. Maybe they weren't lost, maybe they were, but now they definitely are. Now they don't have a map, and they've been going in wrong directions.
I don't think it was doing them any good, because every time they checked the map, it was always farther to their next destination, and there was always some excuse as to why they're off trail from where they were before.
We're walking backwards.
So whether there's some sort of supernatural thing going on here, or they're just not good outdoors people, both pretty likely, I guess.
Yeah, still, you feel like even as a security blanket, you'd rather have map, even if it wasn't doing you much good.
And even just to use as a blanket.
Yeah,
It gets
or
cold in
start
the
a
woods.
fire, and kindling.
Yeah. You betrayed us all big time, man.
Big time.
I love how they say that you betrayed us.
Yeah, it's a pretty great scene. Yeah, Heather's yelling at the top of her lungs, screaming herself hoarse. Josh and Mike almost fight over this map. And yeah, this is where, like, now the dynamic has shifted now, where Josh and Heather are kind of on each other's side against Mike. Mike has done this great betrayal.
It's the best betrayal. The very best betrayal.
The greatest betrayal.
Mike, he threw out the map. He betrayed us all big time.
He's a coward.
We've got the late, great Blair Witch.
He's a nasty woman.
We're promoting her to the Department of Forestry. She's going to run it for us. She's great. She's great. She knows these woods better than anyone.
So Heather, she hears Mike and Josh yelling, and there's a whole bunch of shit up there. There's voodoo shit.
Voodoo shit.
Yeah.
And so there's all these Blair Witch stick crafts hanging from all over the trees.
This is like a whole area just filled with these inventive little Blair Witch crafts. Like dozens of these rock piles, dozens of things tied to trees.
Yeah, whatever the symbol for the Blair Witch is that you see on the movie cover of the poster, that's what's hanging on all of these trees.
She's like Prince. She has a symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't want to get screwed over by the record label. So she took her 1,000 bottles of baby oil and tromped into the woods.
She trademarked her symbol.
I'll get out of this deal one way or another, Diddy. And I'm keeping your lube.
So they're like, this must just be some rednecks. No redneck is this creative, which is false. Rednecks can be very creative
Yeah.
indeed.
Oh, yeah. They love whittling and doing things with sticks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're the craftiest people there is.
Especially in the woods.
So Mike's freaking out some more. He's screaming at the top of his lungs, please help us! Fuck! Fuck!
It's good to have a guy who can keep his head on during a crisis.
Yeah. He's a real rock in hard times. Night falls again. They're still stuck. They won't light a fire. They don't want to keep any lights lit.
Yeah, they're
I know that
suspicious
feeling.
at this point. Like, they're putting their money on the theory that they're being messed with by the locals.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, let's quit yelling fuck in the night and quit lighting fires and stuff, and maybe we can try to be a little sneaky.
And this is when something comes up and shakes their tent.
Really violent.
Yeah. They run out of the tent. Then they turn their lights off and wait tensely in the dark, and they hear like a baby screaming,
Yeah.
sounds like.
And also, this is the part where, as they're running, Heather, she's like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? And that's supposedly when the woman in the white dress is just off. So there's some real crazy shit's happening now.
This is quite a scary scene because you just get a long period of them sitting in the dark together, and you can just hear them breathing heavily, like the three people, and just like listening for any weird thing that's going on. They just had to flee their tent. You just kind of sit with them in the darkness into the morning. The next scene, it's they've just been sitting there all night, and the sun is starting to come up, and they're like, I think it's safe to go back to tent now.
Yeah, so they go back there, and their campsite is totally trapped. Their tent is all caved in. Their bags are out thrown everywhere. Apparently, somebody spilled water on Josh's bags. Like, they dumped my water. That looks like slime. No, it's my water. Oh, it is slime, man.
It's just slime.
Slimer was here.
It's ectoplasm. Every parapsychologist knows ghosts leave ectoplasm when they enter our realm. So I think that's what this is. Was there ectoplasm?
I've been using ghosts as a scapegoat for centuries.
Why is there ectoplasm all over my bag?
Why are our presents all slimy?
Your exterminator was like, there's ectoplasm on the pigeons that I found in your...
Yeah. Got ectoplasm on there. Aye.
So the guy's Josh is really fucking pissed. He's like, turn the goddamn camera off. And it kind of just cuts, and now Josh is filming, and he's like, I see why you like this camera so much. It's like it's not quite reality. It's like a filtered reality, man. It's like you can pretend that everything's not quite the way it is, which I get. I guess it's kind of one of the more good points that somebody says in this movie is like, you don't want to be in that moment.
Yeah.
And you want to just try and experience something.
Heather's got
subjectively
herself out
something in front
at
of
a
you.
concert.
Something
she's
in a
filming
distance.
the concert.
I know.
Like, come on, Heather, just watch the concert.
But that is how it is if you've ever filmed at a concert. It completely takes you out of the moment.
Yeah.
I don't really get people who live through that filtered reality, but that's where we are right now. Everybody does it.
Josh is
We
kind
get
of
just like that. Yeah.
freaked out by this. He's been targeted by this activity in the night that slimed his stuff.
Yeah,
so
nobody else's bag got slimed, did it?
He
It was
doesn't
just
quite
Josh's.
understand. He's like, why my stuff, man? Why my stuff? So he needs a moment just off to himself, freaking out.
Being a little bitch.
She's being a crybaby bitch.
I get it. Things have been ramping up every single night, and now one of them's been actually singled out.
Yeah.
Cry about it, bitch. They keep crossing a stream. They go walk for 15 hours in one direction, end up at the same place they started. It's the same log over the stream.
Yeah. Full circle. Mm-hmm. They made no progress.
It's the same log. It's the same log. Heather doesn't believe them at first, and then she sees it for herself, and she just breaks down and has a moment.
Yeah. You get a scene here where Josh is filming Heather now, and she's just like kind of staring off into the distance, and he's badgering her. And he
What's your motivation, Heather?
Yeah.
What's your motivation?
How about this? We're scared and lost. You've been walking in the woods for 15 hours, getting chased by a witch. That's your motivation.
That's your motivation. That's your motivation.
She
That is
wells
their
up.
motivation, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's here to save you. That's your motivation.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's your motivation.
Like he's basically out to make her cry here, or rub her nose in the pee, like that she's been a bad puppy or something. And he succeeds. He gets his little vindictive stab at her here.
Well, yes. Heather has been super annoying with the way she's been shoving this camera in everybody's face the whole time. She's never doing it to be mean, and Josh is doing it to be mean-spirited.
She's also the type who,
Trying to make her cry.
Yeah.
like, she'll never admit she was wrong about anything either, so that's playing into this too. You can see how she's kind of the bad guy in their eyes in some regards,
But she can't appear weak in front of these two men.
Yeah.
But they get...
But obviously everybody's defenses are way fucking past gone at this point.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants to have somebody to blame.
Well, another big thing is that they're all smokers. This kept popping up in my head too, and
They're just nicking out the whole time.
They like run out of cigarettes by the second night, and so they're on like 3 days without cigarettes or something by the end of this. I was like, yeah, that would be such a major factor in wanting to stab each other in the face constantly too.
I mean, it wouldn't help.
No.
It's actually not that hard to not smoke for a couple days. But when you're going through something like this with other people,
I would stab them in the face.
I'd step over my own mother for a cigarette in that case.
I mean, food, you can go a few days without food.
Can't go 45 minutes without a smoke.
If I can't smoke and swear, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
So nighttime, they're thinking about what they miss from home. Oh, we get home, I want some mom's mashed potatoes and a piece of ass.
Stand By Me has a scene like this too.
So much more innocent in Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Talk about mom's mashed potatoes and a piece of ass.
At the same time,
All the essential.
and the
The gravy.
gravy.
Your mom just feeding you mashed potatoes with a spoon as you're,
Pounded ass.
Yeah.
pounding ass. You got your gape gloves out,
Cheering you on.
getting that ass torn right open.
Pound that ass.
More ass, son.
What's thou like to see, goat see?
I love a good home cooked ass.
So it's daytime and it's morning and Josh is missing. Josh, it's morning, and Josh's meeting. I can't say it.
meeting in the morning.
Where'd he go? Where's Josh?
So they're yelling for Josh, and they break down the tent, and they wait for him.
And now
they don't know what to do. Mike and Heather decide to go off alone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's either that or wait there another night where people are going missing, I guess.
How do you feel about east? I mean, you're in Maryland. If you walk east, you should be able to get to the fucking ocean eventually, right?
Yep, think so. They already tried north. That's what got them full circle back to this log. They walked 15 hours north, got nowhere. So now east, and they have they gotta move on. Even though Josh is gone, because they've got limited amount of time. They have no food anymore. Like they're spiraling the drain to death now, basically. Where it's like, okay, our days are numbered if we don't get out of here. So
if they want to get to Funky Town, they gotta move on.
Won't you take them down to Funky?
Gotta move on. So they head east for a little bit, and they another night camping.
Nighttime again. More mysterious noises in the night. This time they can hear Josh screaming. Sounds like he's being tortured. Is it a trick? Should we call out to him? Should we go out there? Should just huddle up in the... We know they should have just huddled up.
In their mind, it's got to be a trick, right? Because they've been hearing crazy shit, and it's pretty convenient for them to be camping, and then they hear their buddy's voice nearby.
Yeah, after hiking all day.
In an arbitrary direction. I mean, I guess it could happen, but still, what else are you going to do?
I would follow my screaming friend's voice, personally.
Yeah?
That's just what I would do. I don't know.
Sounds like a good time.
I would hope you guys would do the same for me.
I would put...
Luke's getting tortured over there like 100 feet away. Should we go? No, it's a trick.
Why did Luke leave the tent last morning?
Yeah. I don't know.
He didn't want to be tortured.
It's got to be a pretty good reason to get me out of my sleeping bag when I'm camping. I gotta have to take a piss too or something.
Yeah, okay. Well, wait until you gotta pee, and then please come and save me from the guys from Deliverance as they're buggering me from both holes.
Those guys had guns. I can't do anything against them.
What do you think I am, Burt Reynolds?
Yeah, well, you gotta have a bow and arrow.
I'm like Ned Beatty. I'm not Burt Reynolds. I look like a pig.
I'm just a blubbering mess.
Squeal, pigeon! Oh my god! Squeal, pigeon!
So they go off to go look for... I guess they're good friends after all. They go off to go look for Josh. They're screaming, "Where are you? Tell me where you are!" And the voice continues. They can never reach it. It's always just, beyond where they're going, and eventually they keep going.
Yeah, they just go back to the tent at a certain point because it's the middle of the night. They can't find Josh. They can't track this voice down. And so then they're just kind of huddled up in the tent, weeping to each other, listening to their friend being tortured off in the night, and there's nothing they can do about it. They're just like, I guess we just have to lie here in the dark and listen to our buddy being tortured.
That's right.
Yeah, good fun.
It's a good way to go to sleep.
Yeah.
The sound of your friends being tortured.
It's like a white noise. Right?
Oh, sorry, you don't like that one? I'll put it to ocean sounds.
I just listened to the live stream from the High and Low Torture Basement.
I'm glad someone's listening to it.
Yeah, I'm your one subscriber.
Torture noises. Good Halloween.
Torture noises. I got torture noises.
I'm in love with the torture.
Thumb screws. I got thumb screws.
So, daytime. A nice little present's been left for them. What did they leave them, Mitch?
Well, they left him a bundle of wood.
That's not what your note says.
Oh yeah, if you know, it's a faggot of wood. It is. That's what it is. If you Google a faggot of wood, you'll see what gets left outside of their house. A bunch of twigs held together by twine, and I don't know why witches might like that.
That's what they used to burn them at the stake.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
They would put them at their feet.
Good kindling. Yeah. Inside, there's a human tooth in there that's been ripped out. I guess we can presume this was Josh's tooth if he was being tortured in the night, maybe.
Actually, that was one of mine. Sorry, I forgot it there.
Robert Kennedy.
Let me just grab that from you.
Yeah, Heather's doing a Lady Macbeth
You need to
scene.
pull out your teeth. Otherwise, the government can read your thoughts.
If they had put tinfoil on their head, the Blair Witch wouldn't have been able to track them through these woods. That was their first and last mistake.
So Heather films Mike. He's rocking back and forth, smoking a cigarette.
He found smokes. And
He
he's
found
so
some
happy
smokes
about
in the
it.
bottom of his pack.
Lucky.
You'd think he'd be even happier.
Yeah, exactly. This should have cured all what ailed him.
So yeah, Heather's got blood all over her hands from the tooth thing. The tooth fairy's little gift.
Yeah.
She has a freak out, puts gloves on while breaking down. I'm okay. I'm just going to put gloves on my hands.
So
Yeah.
The thing that annoyed me the most about this movie is that she is recording herself washing her hand when really you got to put the camera down and wash both hands.
Yeah, that's a
Just
good point.
practice.
How'd she even do
How'd
that?
she do that?
Man, that's
That's movie magic right there.
Copperfield stuff, man. That just all the plausibility that I attributed to this movie is down the drain now.
That's why COVID was such a disaster. People weren't putting their cameras down long enough to wash their hands.
People were too busy TikToking and Vine.
Making videos about how to wash their hands, but none of them were doing it right.
Did somebody say COVID? It's false.
It wasn't real.
So they hike off into the night in silence. He starts talking about Cal Ripken. I guess he's a baseball guy. And then this is where we get the famous scene with Heather with the camera up her nostrils, with them nostrils of flaring.
Yeah, and she's got tears dripping, and I can't see the scene without thinking of one of the Scary Movies did totally did, and just had the most gigantic snot bubble, so I can't not picture that when I'm watching this.
I did keep thinking, like, I bet in hindsight she wishes that she had angled the camera up just a little more to be dead on with the face.
Well, the hard time she was given whatever his name was earlier.
Yeah.
But not having the camera in the right place. You'd think she'd be better at it.
I think it's a really good scene, actually.
It is. It's a great monologue.
You get the camera so close up to her eye. You can see the way her pupils are growing and shrinking.
Yeah.
Yep.
You see detail on her face and expression, and it's just half of her face. Most of it's obscured. You see a lot more stuff there than you would typically see, and it's a pretty strong performance, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was really great. Like,
yeah, it's crazy she got nominated for a Razzie Award for this shit, and this movie caught so much hell for it, because for what this movie is, it's a damn strong scene, and she basically just did all that herself. She had a fucking camera in her hand.
Yeah, and it was all unscripted. And for me, the biggest weakness of this movie is that I'm just not a huge fan of the found footage genre. I think the actors are good across. Like, they're all believable. Yeah. It's fun. They like the sound, like we talked about, is great. I like that they have two cameras that kind of mixes it up a little bit, where you kind of get to hop back and forth from perspective to perspective. There's a lot of good stuff going on with this movie. So we all know the Razzies are a joke anyways, but I mean, come on. This movie's pretty good for what it is.
Yeah.
Really good for what it is. But that's the most famous scene in the movie, surely.
And I do love, as things are going along now, just how bleak and kind of hopeless things have got. Now it's always so, like, quiet because it's just Heather and Mike that have been, like, hiking through the woods. The intense, really out of control arguments actually happen pretty early on in this movie, and now there's just this sort of hopelessness as they've kind of accepted their situation, and there's still little moments, but the vibe really changes as this movie goes along, which is something I kind of appreciated.
Like, did they have a knife? I would just slash my own throat or something.
I mean, honestly, they probably
How long
don't.
do you go?
They don't seem to be very competent hikers, so I don't think they have a knife.
I guess it's not quite slash your own throat time. Like, you could be literally less than a mile from a road.
Did you guys ever read that Stephen King story, Survivor Man, about a guy who crashes on an island, and then, like, to survive, all he's got is medical supplies and, like, a knife, so he's just, like, eats his fingers one at a time just to survive and stuff? That's what I'd do if I had a knife in the woods.
I would not do that. I would kill myself first. But
I would eat one of my hands.
I would eat your fingers if I had to survive. I'm glad we
I
actually
would do a
brought this-
Charles Rocket and slash my own.
I'm
Even
glad
better
we
if you
brought
do
up
it.
eating ourselves, because actually one thing that I was thinking about a lot during this movie was Society of the Snow. And just how competent all of those people were in an extreme survival scenario, and they
had no training by the looks of it.
and they got shit done. And these people, like, things go
guys are
tits up after 2 nights, and they're at each other's throats. They're not working together. They all have terrible attitudes.
We're just 3 film students in the woods.
Yeah, they had shit attitudes compared to those guys in Society of the Snow.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, what a story.
Can any of you guys build a transistor? No, but I could talk about Truffaut and Fellini. Damn, we're stuck in these woods.
Damn liberal arts, eh? Jocks win again. The nerds.
That would be me in the woods. Yeah.
Oh, no. Another film crew went up and died in them woods. That rugby teams, they're doing fine.
Those young men said they had communications degrees. Don't know what that is.
The rugby team ate the film crew.
Must be one of them degrees where you learn how to just yell at everybody all the time and get mad at Heather.
So yeah, they hear Josh screaming for help in the night again. Follow my voice, follow my voice. And they follow the voice to a house.
It's weird that he's specifically screaming, follow my voice.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
Yeah, well.
So they arrive at this derelict, crumbling house. I'm sure everybody knows the scene and more or less what it looks like.
Yeah, so they go inside. Each of them has a camera, and neither of them can find each other. They're kind of screaming, where are you? Where are you? And
Surprisingly big place.
yeah, roomy.
Like.
Yeah.
Mike's running ahead.
They need a better realtor. That place should have sold years ago.
Oh, yeah. Nowadays.
Put a new set of drapes on there.
These are the scenes that's really interesting to break down if you think that Mike and Josh might have been in on this gaslighting Heather and stuff, because it's in this house now, and Josh, they first hear the voice from upstairs, Josh's voice yelling out, and Mike's running ahead, kind of leaving Heather in the dust. It's almost like something could be getting set up as Heather's kind of trailing behind here. So they run upstairs. There's a bunch of like black handprints all over the walls and stuff, like spooky, like little kid handprints.
Yeah, real spooky.
Like, I think this is meant to be the house where those children
It's good
were murdered.
set dressing, but it's also exactly the kind of thing you'd find in any kind of house like this, where teenagers would probably go and drink.
Dude, you find that in my house. My kids just like stick their hands in the peanut butter jar and just make handprints all across the hallways.
It's no different than urban exploring the Camcell Hospital, like we were talking about earlier, or in Greaseball, the abandoned military base. Yeah, that kind of thing. But then the Josh's voice is now calling to them from downstairs in the basement, and Mike runs down there. He's got the crappier camera that films in color, and he follows the voice to the basement, and then the camera just drops. That's the end of his footage with that camera.
Yeah.
Now Heather's running down to the basement, Mike chasing after him. She gets down, she sees him standing in the corner, like one of the children that was murdered that they were talking about earlier, that the Parr maniac murdered back in the day.
Yeah.
Then she drops the camera, and that's it. That's it. Cut to black, no explanation.
And a movie.
Really strong
Yeah.
ending. For me, all of that atmosphere paid off. The first time I saw this when it came out, that stuck out in my mind, and same thing when I watched it last. Really
It's memorable.
spooky ending. Yeah. The imagery of the guy standing, looking away in a corner. It's just, like I was talking about earlier, one of those weird things that doesn't happen. When you see somebody doing that, you know that something's fucked up, something weird
a
is going
creepy
on.
thing.
But it's just a guy standing in a corner, but it's unusual. And
Yeah.
it's extra spooky because of that.
So it could just be maybe Josh is standing in the other corner, and as they run into the basement, clubs them on the head with a rock or something. Who knows? We don't know.
Well, we'll never know. And yeah, so that was the Blair Witch Project.
Not bad.
Not too shabby.
Well, we'll be right back with Ghostwatch.
Bum, 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 bum. Well, listeners, wasn't that fun? Watching that dusty old VHS tape of the Blair Witch Project? That was spooky. I think we learned a lot about what happens when 3 teens are trapped in the woods, but
Three sexy teens
trapped in the woods.
trapped in the high and low woods.
It's hot and lonely in the... Now let's travel across the ocean to jolly old England for 1992's Ghostwatch.
Evening, Governor.
Oh, wait, is that the wrong
Oi.
tune? I'm singing Hail to the Chief.
Oh yeah, that's the America one.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
say what you were saying again. Yeah, that's the tune we need.
Now we're traveling across the ocean to jolly old England, where the Queen's eating her crumpets, and old Smithy and Michael Parkey are on the BBC.
Kippers for breakfast.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher, she's not in office anymore, is she? I'm not that familiar with early 90s.
You'll have to ask our UK listeners.
That's right, yeah.
Both of them. This one's dedicated to them.
We picked Ghostwatch to broaden our audience, to make us more appealing for the English listen, because it's from England, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. You know them, you love them. They've been around so long.
BBC One, BBC
Yeah.
Two, BBC Three.
They're always putting out British things and telling the news.
They're
It's
the
so
most
great.
British news broadcasting company that they're the most British broadcasting company that I know of.
Yeah, definitely. The whole thing with Ghostwatch is, I guess it's kind of a found footage thing, but it was a program that they aired on the BBC during Halloween night in 1992. and the people in Ghostwatch are actual BBC personalities who would appear as presenters on various BBC shows. And they played it straight, this Ghostwatch. They played it like they were investigating a haunted house, and they never winked to the audience too much. It was like a War of the Worlds scenario, Orson Welles broadcast. And the fun part about Ghostwatch is that it traumatized a generation of British kids who watched it thinking it was real and just bought into its the world it's creating.
Yeah, anything that harms British kids, it's all right by me.
Exactly. Yeah, British dentistry. I love what they do to those teeth.
Prince Andrew.
Massacre them.
No, I loved that. I loved that everybody was a news broadcaster. They had the cadence and really just added that sense of verisimilitude.
And it feels like a BBC thing, and it's very 90s. It's very British. They're all kind of stuffy. I don't know. They're likable, all these people, though.
I love how unflappable this Michael Parkinson guy is. No matter what happens, it's like, well, I think we've just all received incredible evidence that this is nothing but a hoax.
Oh my, there seems to be a ghostly wind blowing through the studio.
So he's kind of like their version of, say, for in Canada, we have Peter Mansbridge forever, and
yeah, a trusted guy who was on the air for decades.
Cronkite in the United States would be probably the big guy.
He's actually got a knighthood from Prince Charles at that time in the early 2000s. So he's a knighted British. I've been knighted for doing the news.
Kneel before me.
Parkins, you.
Rise as Sir Michael Parkinson.
Yeah, you become a knight for all kinds of bullshit these days.
Like what else?
Well, back in the day, you used to have to slay a dragon, I'm pretty sure, if I remember my British history. But nowadays, yeah, anything. Make a song.
Did they knight the guy who drove a stake through Margaret Thatcher's heart?
Yeah, it's Peter Cushing.
Did they knight that guy who dropped a house on her?
Dorothy.
We thank you so completely for killing her so sweetly.
Ding dong.
You're a knight now.
So, Michael Parkinson.
Yeah. They start off in the news studio. There's like 3 sets in Ghostwatch. Most of it'll jump between the news studio where Michael Parkinson's holding up shop there with Mike Smith. Mike Smith is the guy on the calls because it's a call-in show, so the British public can call in. There actually was a call-in line. This was like a real call-in line when this aired live on Halloween, and people could call in, and there was a message saying that the show was fake if you called in. The line got overwhelmed by calls, so people would call in and they would just get a busy signal, so that contributed to the whole people believing it was real and freaking out about it kind of thing.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, where the haunted house is, there's a couple field reporters too. Mike Smith's real wife, Sarah Green, she's kind of the field reporter on the scene.
Real life wife?
Yeah, they're real life wife and husband.
She's a
in real life. Yeah.
Real life wife with the knife.
That.
Took her life.
Mitch Hop.
Yeah, Sarah Green. She's the reporter on the scene. Very charming.
Yeah, and then there's also a parapsychologist. She's like one of the few actual actors in this, other than like the random people on the street they interview and stuff. She wasn't actually a parapsychologist.
Her whole role in this operation is to say, well, let's not jump to conclusions so quickly and dismiss this as a hoax.
Yeah.
No matter whenever Michael Parkinson or Parky, whenever Parky comes back and says that it's all made up, it's a bunch of hogwash, he's like, well, let's not be so quick.
Yeah, she's the believer.
She's the Fox Mulder.
She wants to believe, and she's a little too eager to, maybe sometimes. Like Parkinson lays the whole thing out. He's like, here's the investigation. For 10 months, this house has been experiencing paranormal activity. These 2 girls, the Early girls, Kim Early and Suzanne
Take a look at
Early.
this house. No creaking gates, no Gothic towers, no shuttered windows.
It's
Just a normal, modest house.
Scully, we received a report about a house in England with 2 young girls, and the mother says it's very noisy. Why, Mulder, that sounds like a perfectly normal house. Like, no, it's a poltergeist, Scully. We've got to go across the pond.
It's a shapeshifter. Yeah, it's a council house is what they call it in England. It's lower income class people. This is a single mother family with 2 girls. I think these are houses houses that the government helps pay for part of or something. I think that's what council housing is. Like, we have that kind of low-income housing in Canada as well.
It's not as nice as this, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
No, it's a pretty nice place,
It's okay.
all things considered.
It comes with a glory hole.
Yeah, it does have a glory hole. So it is pretty similar to the High and Low Studios.
Yeah.
Usually I need to go downtown to find one of those.
The dungeon.
Or the basement here.
The Gothic
So
asshole.
Parky, Michael Parkinson's. Michael Parkinson's or Michael Parkinson?
Parkinson.
We're just going to call him Parky, heretofore known as Parky.
Yeah, Parky.
Sir Parky.
Sir Parky.
They've got fun nicknames.
Yeah, Sir Parky.
That's what the lads would call him probably in British boarding school, right? Hey, Parky, like, we're going to go play cricket. And same with Smithy.
Hello, Parky. So Parkinson shows footage shot by a parapsychologist's investigation. We see the two young girls, Kim Early and Suzanne Early. They're laying in bed, one reading a magazine by lamplight. They turn the light off and fall asleep. And then at 3:55 a.m., one of the girls awakens in next frame. Then we hear a loud banging on the walls. Objects are thrown from off the screen. The girl runs back into frame. They freak out, calling for their mom. They decide they're bringing on the Ghostwatch. Here comes the Ghostwatch field investigation team.
Yeah, the Ghostwatch has basically taken over the street outside of I think Fox Hill Drive is what this neighborhood's called. They've got their big Ghostwatch trailer set up.
This is Ghostwatch's jurisdiction.
Yeah, we're doing a paranormal investigation.
We have a mobile studio operation.
Craig Charles is kind of their man on the street. He's an actual English actor. He appeared in Red Dwarf and Coronation Street.
Yeah, he's like a
programs
comedian,
that.
and he's
Yeah,
pretty good. He's funny in front of the camera.
Yeah, you reminded me of like a Much Music VJ from back in the day.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's just like trying to
That's-
come across as all cool and hip to the kids.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what he was, a jack of all trades. I think he still has a radio show that's still plays to this day.
I just hope he has a podcast.
Do you have a podcast? I bet he does.
Yeah, he's a rival.
We fuck him.
Get him on the pod.
So, Mr. Charles, what do you know about Santa's pigeon fucking proclivities?
I don't know nothing about it, mate. Never heard of it.
Fuck you talking about, bruv?
Oh, chimneys is too narrow for pigeons.
Being a whole lot of Barney rubble if this pigeon fucking story gets out. That means trouble in Cockney rhyming slang.
I saw Ocean's 11.
Yeah. That's the only Cockney rhyming slang.
I know bits and bobs.
Sir Parky, he's joined back at the studio by Dr. Lynn Pascoe. She's the believer.
Yeah.
Welcome live. This is Halloween night. Tonight, television is going ghost hunting in an unprecedented experiment where we hope to show you for the first time irrefutable proof that ghosts really do exist. So Craig Charles, he goes and he interviews Pam Early. She's the mother of the Early girls and the victim of this supposed poltergeist.
They've been popping up in the news. This is actually based on a real poltergeist case that happened in England, like the Enfield poltergeist, I think it was called. It happened in a British council house, and it became this sort of media phenomenon for a little while where it would appear in tabloids, and I think maybe the people who lived there got interviewed by like a Maury Povich type show or whatever the equivalent in England would be.
The ghost is not the father.
Yeah,
I knew it. I knew it.
ho, 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 nasty, nasty.
Did someone say ho, ho, ho? Santa Claus, you're on next week's episode.
My North Pole pervert husband.
Now, would you put on the outfit that he wants you to wear when you're intimate? Beak, little wings, high school play grade wings where, like, you know, you can just see them tied to their arms. Like, ah.
There was a notorious incident in the WWF in, I think, the late 80s where for Thanksgiving they had a wrestler come out called the Gobbledygooker, and it was just a man in like a turkey costume with a beak. And that's what Santa Claus makes Mrs. Claus wear. The Gobbledygooker's outfit.
Put on the gobbledygooker.
So, back in studio, Mike Smith displays a number that the viewing public can call with their own ghost stories and observations.
So cool that was a live number. I didn't know that.
And that's going to be like a segment that's like one of the things they'll cut away to frequently throughout this is a little call-in segment where a viewer will call in with a...
So those are all just real people calling?
I think those are all actors.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when the actual public called in, they were probably just directed to like a fun little pre-recorded message
Gotcha.
that was like, Ghostwatch, fun.
Reminds me what I wanted to comment about the real story of those girls that had that supposed poltergeist in England. I think there was this Conjuring 2, maybe, I think.
Yeah.
The, what's that shyster family from The Conjuring?
The Warrens.
Yeah, they investigated that case. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was roundly found to be a hoax.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything the Warrens ever touched,
Yeah.
of course. But
Shuckster.
yeah, but it
Yeah.
didn't stop them from capitalizing on it.
They've got their fingers in so many of these things.
Yeah.
The Amityville Horror, that was like a Warren investigation before the Warrens themselves sort of became more in the public eye with the Conjurings and the Annabelles.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is essentially like a long episode of Ghost Hunter where you can call in.
Pretty much.
I think this movie was pretty enjoyable, even not knowing that context.
Yeah.
And to me, maybe even more than Blair Witch, which also is best enjoyed in its context, in the context of its time.
Yeah. Even though they're both sort of early found footage movies, they are pretty distinct from each other, trying to do different things.
Definitely different things. There is a new movie out that's very similar to this movie. And is very much a successor to it, and that's Late Night
I
with
was
the
gonna say,
Devil.
is it Night with the Devil?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is set in a talk show in the 70s, I think.
I still have to watch that.
Yeah,
but
it has people calling in and different paranormal investigators, and things go crazier and crazier. Nobody's going into that movie thinking that it's real, but it is a really cool, entertaining period piece like this is.
Yeah, similar vibe. Craig Charles interviews Pam early. She's kind of breaking down the various phenomena they've been experiencing in the house, things getting broken, noises in the walls.
Yeah, some of it pretty violent.
And she's like,
How destructive has the haunting actually been? Broken plates and teacups, a thick, disgusting smell coming from the taps. The central heating went.
Yeah,
You
like-
start thinking, maybe you've done something wrong. It's wrecked my house, my home, my family.
it's taking a toll on them psychologically.
You start thinking maybe I've woken up in the high and low studios.
Ghostwatch is not quite as coy about its paranormal goings-ons. Like, it seems pretty clear-cut that there is something ghostly happening once stuff really starts ramping up here, but...
Oh, I don't know, man. I think it's pretty ambiguous.
Well, there's definitely some ambiguity around the Early family, like Kim Early, Pam Early, because there's a take that they might just be like charlatans or seeking fame or something, because they've been sort of using this to get on TV shows and stuff like that.
England has a long history of stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't remember what they were called, but there was those girls. They created this big hoax where they had, we found fairies in our garden, and they had these pretty cool and convincing looking pictures. They were from
I've seen those pictures, yeah.
like the 1930s, 40s, 50s.
Wasn't Arthur Conan Doyle all into that stuff? He was
think
like,
so.
fairies are real.
Fairies are real.
I made Sherlock
Yeah.
Holmes and I say fairies are real.
English people just straight up believe in fairies. Don't
Yeah.
at me, English listeners. Actually,
that's
fairies
okay.
are quite real. High and Low podcast.
The way that we have stories about people making love to Bigfoot, they have stories about people making love to Leprechaun and
Yeah.
fairies.
They don't have Bigfoots there, so they got to fuck these little fairies with their little micro dicks. Sarah's in the field, and she kind of jokes with Mike Smith, her husband, back at the studio about how he's scared. And it's like, well, I've had my own paranormal encounters. And
Maybe I'll bring it up later if you're lucky.
so Green interviews Alan Damescu. This is another actor, I think. He's an electronics engineer and member of the Society for Psychic Research.
Breaks out all their equipment, like on any ghost hunting show you watch, they'll have their go-to
Their
equipment.
supposed expert.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got the technical know-how. He's got the thermal camera.
We've got the camera that shows in the infrared.
that can
The
show.
predator vision.
Yeah, they can see if something's really cold. Press it. What else?
Yeah, so tonight we're concentrating on spontaneous cases. Inexplicable noise, electrical interference, the feeling of being watched, all the way to full-on apparition.
Yeah, all of the above. They're charting the atmospheric condition,
Yeah.
temperature.
They're set up to detect high and low frequency.
Oh, high and low.
Oh,
Like this podcast.
that's where we got our name. Paranormal frequencies.
They detected us.
But I love how these shows always have the person who's the credible expert, and they're always just some fucking weird freak who just like,
Yeah.
this is my van. I work out of it, and I live out of it.
Yeah.
I use my colander for a satellite dish.
Picks up radio signals with the Philips.
Here's my picture of RFK Jr.
I think this guy's just a cool guy, you know? Like, he's kind of got a leather jacket on and long hair. Like, he's not as stuffy like Michael Parkinson in the studio. This is a field guy.
No, he's boots on the ground.
He works with equipment. You know, he's probably a roadie back in the day. He probably did a lot of acid. That's my guess.
Yeah.
They don't go into that. They introduce the other technical crew at this point. There's the cameraman, Chris Miller. You don't see too much of him. He's mostly going to be the guy holding the found footage camera.
And a man of sound mind here, Mike Ayton.
He's the sound guy. Clever.
Just a bit of that dry British wit that was so
terribly dry.
useful.
So terribly dry.
Michael Parkinson back in the studio interviewing the parapsychologist, Dr. Pascow. Why did you choose this particular house? Well, apparently they ran a computer simulation that proved that Fox Hill Drive is the hotbed of paranormal activity in the UK. It's
So
like the
in
most
the
what are the
Buffy,
chances?
Yeah.
in the Buffy universe, this is like they're on a hellhole, or
Yeah.
whatever the reason. There's so many vampires and crazy shit
or like
going on there.
a coal mine in Alberta,
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah. Or a coal school.
Any one of our schools.
Gotta pay the troll toll to get into the coal hole.
Gotta pay the
Gotta get, where's the coal hole? Goddamn coal hole. I found the poltergeist. It's in my coal hole.
Yo, this chick licked my coal hole last night, bro.
the taint.
Then I gave it to her up the chimney.
Parkinson's like, what are the chances we see something tonight? Come on, Doc. You're the ghost expert.
I don't know. Sometimes there's lots of activity, and sometimes radio silence.
Will Halloween make a difference? You know,
Yes, I imagine it will.
tapping into those ghostly energies. Everybody's all scared on Halloween.
It's the spookiest time of year.
That's the most haunted night.
We learned from Max and Hocus Pocus that Halloween was just invented by the Hallmark Company.
Just the candy company.
Yeah, the candy company or whatever.
He was so wrong.
He's so what a fucking idiot. Everyone knows Halloween is the time when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest.
Yeah, that's why the Sanderson sisters were able to come back to life.
Yeah.
Maybe if this team did their fucking research and watched a fucking movie.
Yeah. The BBC is a joke.
So, they take a call on the line, and the caller says earlier when they were showing footage of the early sisters in bed, she saw a figure in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
So we cut to the big wall of little TVs that makes up like one image, which we never see anymore.
No,
it's always
I
the
love
big
that.
TV.
It's now they can just
Always
put
great.
now they just have projectors or LCD screens or whatever where they can just have a big picture.
I miss the lots of TVs as an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's for a news broadcast or perhaps some sort of supervillain.
Or, perhaps just all the cameras in the high and low dungeon.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see
Camera one,
multiple
camera
things
two.
from different angles.
I've got a cathode ray tube televisions down there.
Parabolic laser beam so you can hear anything from anywhere.
We're still analog in the high and low dungeon. And always will be.
So this is something that this movie did really well, I thought, where using this call-in thing where they explain exactly what we're supposed to look for. So this poltergeist's name is Pipe, and they take a minute to just show you what to look for, and it primes you for what's going to happen throughout the rest of the movie, because Pipes the poltergeist makes a number of appearances as the movie goes on, and it's always sort of subliminal through a reflection. You don't see his whole form, things like that.
Yeah.
So-
As the movie goes on, you do get a few really good looks at him.
By the end of this movie, it goes
But you have to be
haywire.
looking.
Exactly, yeah.
You still always have to be really looking.
If you're not paying attention, your mind will probably catch it a little bit, and it'll make you feel a little eerie, like
There's
give you the heebie-jeebies a bit.
There's definitely a couple I didn't catch until I watched a YouTube video that paused on each one of them. There's a scene where Craig Charles is just walking through a big crowd out front of the house, and Pipes is standing in behind the crowd. I missed that one.
Yeah, I kind of had my face down in the notes, and then I saw that you had noted that on the notes, and then I rewinded it, and I already had the heebies, and then I played it back, and I saw him there, and then I had the jeebies, too.
Yeah, got the heebie-jeebies out.
Got jeebies.
It's no good if you just have the heebies, right?
No.
The heebies are fine, I guess. I'm not going to write home about them. As soon as those jeebies come into the
it's
picture,
like blue balls if you just get heebies.
Yeah.
You got to get a jeebie.
that's where you get the release.
Man,
Yeah.
I got a little bit of heebie-jeebies last night. I was watching Red Letter Media has just done a ghost investigation video where they went to the Valeska axe murder house. they're skeptics, and it's not a scary video at all, but there was just a moment where I was alone in the basement sitting in the dark, and they were talking to a ghost, like trying to talk to a ghost using all this equipment, and I kind of got a little goosebumpy on my arms.
See, that's funny because I was watching Red Shoe Diaries last night and I got some blue balls.
Oh, you got the heebies.
Yeah, I
also
just got the
starring
heebies.
David Duchovny.
Yeah.
Scully, there's people writing in boring sex stories.
Hey, man.
Listen to me read them to you.
In the late 90s, that was the best porn we had.
We didn't have the Spice Channel up here. People, when you listen to people from America talk about Spice Channel, it's foreign to me. We had Red Shoe Diaries. It was Showcase after dark.
We had scrambled porn channels at my place, and we would watch them, and every now and then you'd see like half a blip in black and white of maybe a boob.
Dude, and you gotta like
Many a sleepover.
you gotta crank it out so hard in that split second where you see like half a nipple.
Yep, and I can still do it to this day.
Yeah.
There was a couple
Everybody
things
loves
like
efficiency, right? Though.
I'm pretty sure after Red Shoe Diaries went off, a show called Latin Lovers came on. Do you guys remember that show, Latin Lovers? That was good. That was like a Mexican telenovela soap opera type thing, but where they would like take off their clothes and show cleavage and boobs. There was a lot of sex stuff happening.
Yeah.
And then also just like at the end of every night, TV would just run out for the night and they'd be like, there's no more broadcasting. And every channel would just start showing infomercials. And sometimes there would be infomercials where it would be like bikini girls dancing with laptops and stuff. That was always good to catch back in the day.
Hell yeah.
God, that was the only way to sell a computer back in the 90s.
The good old days. Then you bought the computer and you got access to the internet. You never needed to watch those programs.
Do you remember those clone commercials for computers?
That's the exact one I was thinking
want a
of.
clone?
Yeah.
What the fuck was that?
No way.
No. You could make money on the black market by selling fake Dell computers, or is that what they were advertising
you can
against?
Must be.
It's just you could actually build a better computer for cheaper.
You don't want to
Buying the
clone.
components separately, it's not that hard. You get a motherboard and a tower and plug in your own components.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what, did you build a clone? You got to get a Dell, dude.
Got to get the right branding.
No way.
None of that bullshit.
Dells were junk. I built my own computer.
Yeah, and nowadays building your own computer is usually the way to, depending what you want to do, but it's the way to go if you're going for a desktop.
Yeah.
'Cause the only reason you do that is for games. You got to build your own gaming rig.
Now they got all those crypto miners out there taking all the microchips.
Oh, they're mining.
There's no microchips
They're
left.
going for the crypto. Krypton. Superman. We all love Superman, don't we?
Comes from the planet Krypton.
They're coming from Krypton. They're taking our jobs. They're
Not sending their best. They're sending Zod. Anybody met Zod?
Zod is a general. He's a
Superman.
respectable...
They love Superman at the Daily Planet, don't they? The Daily Planet's fake news. It's fake news. The things they write about me and Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's a good man.
nasty.
We love Lex Luthor. Good friend of mine. Not the best golfer.
Lois Lane is pig.
So Parky throws to Sarah Green, who's hanging out with the Early family. And they're like, oh, what are you doing? They're like, oh, we're just bobbing for apples. Oh, mind if I come and join you? And let's all stick our faces in this dirty water and bob for some apples, girls.
British.
There was a moment at a Halloween party some years ago where we decided we were going to do bobbing for apples, and about like 2 seconds in, we all collectively realized how disgusting it was. Because you're just shoving your whole face in this like basin of water and like trying to bite an apple, and then just like
I've done it. It's not very fun.
it's not fun.
It's one of those games that was invented before
Yeah.
fun.
Exactly. Back when you used to like
Caleb,
rock with a stick.
bob for apples with your sister.
Caleb, what is thy sin? Did you bob for apples?
Yeah. Father, I bobbed for apples twice
Were
yesterday.
you attempting to have fun, Caleb?
The devil made you bob for apples.
There is no fun to be had here.
Apple is the devil's temptation. They're sweet, Caleb.
You will eat goat and you will eat corn, Caleb. You mustn't eat apples.
Caleb, have this sandwich. Just goat leg in between two cobs of corn, Caleb.
May I have an apple, Father? No, nay, Caleb.
You eat an apple today, Caleb. Maybe you want to make a pie tomorrow. I won't have it. I'll have the billy hook and I'll dash your brains in with it.
Cinnamon.
Dash your skull. as Abraham would have done to his sons.
Touch that cinnamon, I'll dash your skull.
So
All we're saying that is if you want to stay in our colony, just enjoy a piece of pie from time to time.
So, yeah, a banging is heard. And it's picked up by the boom mic, and Green follows the noise to a closet, where Craig Charles pops out of the closet with a monster mask on.
It was a prank.
Yeah, he's taking the piss.
Yeah, he's having a lark.
Having a laugh, are you?
Halloween, right? Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So Green and the camera crew go upstairs to the early girl's bedroom. It all began here in 1991. Who was the first person to experience something? It was Suzanne. And after a family argument, Suzanne was disturbed by a dark figure standing over her bed. And soon the figure began appearing to Mother, Pam, too.
Yeah, there's multiple ways you can view this scenario, and part of it seems to be like the early girls are going through some troubled times, and some of it could be Pam, the mother, sort of unwilling to accept that maybe her girls are misbehaving to explain some of this stuff away, and just like it has to be a ghost. Like there's a bit of that at play in some of this.
There's not really like that psychological angle to this so much as there's just a tiny bit with Suzanne and maybe Kim, but it's not like Babadook where it's like this ghost, this entity, this evil presence is a manifestation of the mother's grief and rage and resentment for her own children.
No.
It's like this movie doesn't get that deep.
It's wholly the spirit of a deranged person who's haunting the house, and all those who try to investigate it or kind of stick their nose where it doesn't belong.
And it starts with the outlines, and then it eventually just kind of colors it all in.
When it comes to poltergeist, they do kind of get into this a bit. That phenomena seems to be associated a lot of the time with children going through puberty or having like an emotional time in their lives. They're talking about how poltergeist phenomena is usually attached to an individual in the household.
Yeah.
And one person is affected more by it than the others.
That's thematically common, and, a lot of it goes back to the witch trials and all that hysteria, and the same thing with, these are demonic possessions. We look at Reagan in The Exorcist, like these
Parenting is hard.
pubescent girls.
Kids are fucking insane.
Yeah.
Or
They
a lot
do
of
But a lot of
crazy
this
shit.
shit is it is sexism too, right? It's like a
Yes.
part of it. There's like that patriarchal element of like, oh, well, these women don't know how to control their emotions, or like these women, they're these young women, they're out of control. We don't know what to do with them. Like it must be a demon, or it must be a poltergeist.
I saw a Beatles rock record in your room the other day. Who are you? Who are you anymore?
There is something off about them with their feminine guiles and their wicked ways.
They have a certain way of making people uncomfortable, don't they? So a few days later, they're recalling these stories about when the figures first started to appear. Terrible noises started coming from the walls, like the whole room was coming apart. Pam didn't know what to tell her daughter, so she said it was the pipes. It's an old building that they're in, and it must just be the pipes, the plumbing, the heating, I don't know.
And a lot of the stuff does just kind of sound like it could be problems that you would have with an old council house. Like smells coming out of the sink and
So
pipes
she says
banging in the
it's
walls.
pipes.
I always call the plumber when dishes start flying across my kitchen.
Yeah, if a pipe goes hard enough in a wall, a dish can go flying. I'm the skeptic doctor. I'm not like Dr. Pascal.
Oh, what we found here is irrefutable proof that this is all nothing but a hope.
So the pipes thing, that's where that came from. Is she says it's the pipes, and the younger daughter Kim, she's like, well, where does Pipes live?
Yeah, they've got this.
She thinks Pipes is a man's name.
Yeah, she'll like draw like creepy little kid pictures of pipes, stuff like that.
She's like, oh, I saw Pipes. This is when they bring the crew downstairs to the boarded up crawl space under the stairs.
This is a creepy little touch, this area. This is like where Harry Potter was forced to live by the Dursleys, to load another UK
You have the
reference
glory
in
hole
there.
at number 12 Privet Drive.
It just keeps saying glory
I
hole in
know.
this movie. It came out when? Like 92?
Where there was not a thing.
I knew about glory holes
known
when
about
I was that old.
My whole life I've known about glory holes.
I know.
Oi, Pipes lives in the glory hole.
That was like one of my first memories. Is like, this is a glory hole. Them drawing it out for me. Don't put your mouth on it. Got it. Got it, Dad. That's enough times today. You've told me.
Public school educations.
God damn it, Luke. We're in the glory hole again.
But it's
Luke, say your prayers. Recite the tenets of faith.
What is your sin, Luke?
Didst thou put the bobs and bits through thine glory hole? I will not have it.
Yes, Father.
What is thy sin? I use the glory hole, Father.
The devil's glory.
So, yeah, they hang her picture of pipes on the kitchen fridge. And I thought it was weird. They have wall-to-wall carpeting, even in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the fridge is kind of in a separate place from the kitchen, and it's under a carpet.
That always seems ill-advised.
I was house hunting a few years ago, and one place we looked at had an ensuite bathroom, which was sweet, but it also had shag carpet leading from the master bedroom right in there. Just
That's nasty.
so gross. Right up to the toilet.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no.
God
you
only
know.
knows. That shag carpet is like one of the easy
You ever tried to get
forests.
baby oil out of shag carpet? No, thanks.
Yeah.
No,
Big
no,
Papa
no.
Mama.
I guess apparently the mayor of New York is also under fire. He's taken
Yeah,
some,
that's right.
some money, and 50 Cent's just having a field day. just like everybody who's going down with P. Diddy, 50 Cent's just beside himself laughing.
It is fun to see P. Diddy, all these YouTube shorts pop up for me of him throwing shade at other rappers, especially 50 Cent throwing shade at P. Diddy. It's usually, he's been against P. Diddy for a long time, since before all this stuff broke, but a lot of his stuff that he says is like pretty homophobic. He's like, I didn't like P. Diddy because a gay guy or something. It's like, well,
50
maybe.
Cent.
Yeah. They got a disturbing message was written in Suzanne's school book, which again, this is one of the evidence they have that pipes exists or that there's some kind of weird phenomena happening. Suzanne shows them this, and again, it could just be a girl scribbling in her notebook, but there's like disturbing writings in her book about wanting to hurt someone. Spooky. It's a spooky thing.
Yeah, did they actually show what the writing said? Because I kind of tried to catch it, but it seemed like it all kind of went by quite quickly.
Maybe not. Maybe, yeah. It looks like a demented, like a mental patient's journal.
Sure, the Kevin Spacey's journals in Seven type of thing, where
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of
exactly.
Or in
rambling
real
of a
life.
madman. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, where did I put my journal? Maybe Suzanne still has it.
Did you see that clip that Will Sloan was sharing on social media?
Yes. Where he's
Kevin
singing.
Spacey, yeah, like days after 9/11, singing Mind Games by John Lennon. People just couldn't get enough of Spacey. In
He brought the
2000.
host down.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing.
Mind Games together.
Learning what people were doing around 9/11, always fun. I saw a post the other day that said James Cameron was eating lunch on the deck of the Titanic in a submarine underwater on the day of 9/11.
On the deck of the Titanic?
Yeah, in a submarine, but the submarine had landed down on the deck of the Titanic, and he was eating lunch in there. And
Okay, good alibi,
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. I was like, wait, what is this juxtaposition? Why are they bringing this up now?
It's like the type of thing that a kid makes up because he didn't want to go to school or something like that.
I was on the deck of the Titanic.
Aliens abducted me, and that's why I don't have my
Yeah.
assignment.
James Cameron stole my lunch and took it down to the deck of the Titanic. He stole my homework.
Ever since I read that, I've been suspicious that he's somehow involved in 9/11.
I didn't demolish Tower 7. I was at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
A likely story.
Well, it's a weird thing where like
Eating
everybody has
tuna.
their story about what they were doing and where they were, so that just all kind of makes it into historical canon, I guess, where it's just a
true.
thing, even though it has nothing to do with anything.
was I doing on 9/11?
I have
Mind your own business.
None of you.
I have hashtag questions for Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. We got to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, that'll be our next podcast.
Yeah.
True crime podcast.
And I like how we do all kinds of things on this podcast. We had a fashion segment on one of our episodes where we talked hairstyles. We had
I don't remember that.
we're experts in everything on this podcast. That's the best part.
Yeah, we anoint ourselves experts on everything.
Jack of no trades. Mind game together.
Wasn't a barrier.
It's just so funny because, like, it's a tribute to John Lennon, and because 9/11 happened and the show must go on, you can't not talk about 9/11, like, however, a week later, whenever they did that.
Yeah, but
So
he was already
yeah.
like cheerleading, nuking the Middle East, and he's like, I just think there's too much violence in this world.
Only one way to stop it.
You know what John Lennon would say if he was here today? Is he would say, turn the entire Middle East into a sheet of glass.
Yeah.
Playing those mind games.
He would say, you want
Do what you have to do, Mr. President.
Yeah. Absurd.
And then Toby Keith. Proud to be in America.
I hope you stand up.
I got my glory hole.
So on our Jack Frost episode, we were talking about how using a landslide is a cheat just to like make somebody cry. Using that Toby Keith song, I'm like proud to be an American, is like a cheat to just get every red-blooded Yankee fucking jumping out of their chair and just hooting and hollering.
Yeah, after you hear that song, you can't help but want to pet an eagle or something.
Yeah, all our American listeners are just chanting USA, USA right now, like they can't even help it.
We'll give them a moment to collect themselves. Stand up. Oh shit, we got to start the clock again.
Okay, breathe.
Yeah, that's not one of the...
Remember, 9/11 was an inside job. Inside job. There, okay.
Cam.
The election was stolen. Okay, there goes.
That's the ultimate American.
So,
Mommy, they found a poltergeist in England.
heard he's got a glory hole, Mummy, just like you did back in the MGM backlot.
Well, that's how they met.
Nancy, why don't we take the Raps over to the glory hole? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so they had several call-ins about this mysterious figure. They play the footage, and there is a figure. I think they show this clip a couple times, and I think when they show it one time, there's nothing there. They'll show it again, and there is something there. But there is...
If you squint, there's a figure there.
Yeah.
It looks like those pictures that you see of ghosts, supposedly, where you could plausibly imagine that there's a figure standing there.
Yeah, he's like a BDSM guy with an orange cowl on his head or something like that.
Yeah. I have some thoughts about how he actually looks and what his story is, but we'll save that for the ending.
Yeah, it gets weird as they get into that. To her credit, Dr. Pascoe, the believer, the parapsychologist that's in studio with Michael Parkinson, she points out that it could just be a shape. The human mind is kind of really good at putting shapes together to make it look like a human. Pareidolia, or whatever they call it. You know, humans, if you see a random shape, you're going to make out a human shape in it or whatever.
Yeah.
So she has a little skeptical side to her here, too.
And that's true. And it's human.
Yeah.
Just like my kid who's always seeing fucking ghosts in his room.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain it to a kid that, like, your mind wants to see a human face. If you look into the dark, you're going to see a human figure. You're going to see a human face because that's
primed for it.
Or you want to make just sense of randomness.
Yeah.
Like that's why we have constellations. We have all these things that people say look like shapes just in the stars, and you know, really it's just a bunch of random.
A big dipper.
Big dippers, little dippers.
dippers.
Oh, you got your dippers.
Medium dipper. No one ever talks about the medium, but that's like my favorite one.
Medium dippers are for fence sitters.
I want a dipper that can touch the back.
So I gave her a dipper.
In the coal hole.
I gave her a dipper in the coal hole.
So Sarah Green asks the mother, Pam Early,
big dipper,
what the worst experience had been in the home, and she said that her ex-husband used the room under the stairs as a dark room for photography. The glory hole, we used to call it when I was a kid. After the divorce, Pam went under the stairs to find a solicitor's letter concerning her divorce, and the door closed behind her and locked her in. She began screaming and kicking, but the girls couldn't get her out. And while inside, Pam felt the presence of a man in the dark room with her. She could feel his hot breath on her face. It smelled like cabbage.
Connie's.
Smell of cabbages.
So, and after that, she'd become a bit of a tabloid sensation.
If some
British mom believes in the devil.
See, this makes me feel bad, because if I bumped into somebody in the dark, my hot cabbage breath might make them think that I'm a poltergeist or something like that.
Well, Mummy, I thought it was you down in the glory hole. She smelled my cabbage breath and it turned her off.
It would be scary just to be trapped in a small enclosed space. Like, that's something that's just scary in general. So even if there's not a ghost with cabbage breath in there,
oh, totally,
getting trapped in your little glory hole under your stairs and not being able to get out is like something that is pretty frightening.
Go do a few Bloody Marys in the bathroom. We'll shut off the lights and lock you in there.
Let me out.
Have fun.
Let me out. And
I don't know how many times my sister did that to me when I was a kid.
Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Yeah.
Her and her friends would lock me in the bathroom.
Just kept working on you, huh?
Man.
Well, they did lots of horrible things to me. Made me the man I am today.
Psychological torture.
Sorry, what were you saying? I was just looking at the dungeon footage.
Luke, you have a 1,000-yard stare. What's happening?
So they take some calls. Caller says she grew up with a ghost who broke things.
Typical.
Fucking Fred Durst over there.
Ghost babe. These ghosts always like to act out.
It's just one of those days when you want to wake up and give a haunt.
You know, how come ghosts
Every dish is fucked. Everybody sucks. You don't want to know why, but you want to go under the glory hole and breathe on someone's face.
Tearing someone's head off.
I like these stories where there's like elves who repair your shoes in the night. Ghosts never do that. It's always smashing something or breaking something. They never repair your work boots or...
Elves are like your hardworking mother who's just always kind of keeping the house together, and ghosts are just like your drunk dad.
Are they
coming
fairies?
home.
Are
Yeah,
elves
no,
fairies?
fairies are good.
Yeah, they're a positive spirit.
Yeah.
Like an elf. I think elves and leprechauns and fairies are...
Well, it depends. Fairies can be bad in a lot of times too. In a lot of
they can be
legend,
mischievous.
Fae.
Yeah.
Just that's why I just always keep iron
Mischief.
with me. Wrought iron.
Like they
Does
put...
that keep them away?
That keeps fairies away of all sorts.
Oh, okay. So they can't get through my chastity.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Mine's fiberglass.
I saw those fairies coming at me with gape gloves, and I just tore off my blunt pants by the belt loop, and I'm like, ha ha!
I got you now.
My genitals are covered in cast iron.
Nice.
You got to gape somebody.
It might be the devil. It may be the Lord, but you gotta gape
Gotta gape.
somebody.
Gape somebody.
Gotta
You know that I could gay somebody. Kings of Leon.
Oh, we're just gaping along.
gape somebody.
Your gape is on fire. So Pipes is looking for some gape, and they're trying to find Pipes.
They go back to the studio. Michael Parkinson. They have a little segment here where Dr. Pascoe, the parapsychologist, is like showing her most compelling evidences that she's collected.
It's like a box of junk. It's like broken dishes and
none of it's compelling at all.
Yeah,
Like, these are cups that broke in the house.
I've gone on a bender too. This is nothing. This isn't evidence of a poltergeist.
And she plugs her book here too, Angels of the Odd, which is like another little hint that she could have ulterior motives to this. She has a for-profit motive.
She's a
promoting her
paranormal
book,
investigator.
Yeah.
I mean, that's her bread and butter.
Yeah, she's like the Warrens, really, if you think about it.
I mean, at the very least, she's chronicling it. It's her job. But yeah, they cut to footage of Suzanne, the older daughter, being rigged up with the blindfold and earmuffs in an experiment.
This is completely undoctored. They suspect that Suzanne is the one that...
What you find on this tape might be disturbing. So if you have more sensitive watchers out there...
Yeah, they think she's the one the poltergeist activity is centering her. That's their suspicion. So most of the investigation has had to do with testing Suzanne and doing various things. But they've got her blindfolded here, and she's speaking in tongues, basically. A gurgling ghost voice is coming out of her, and they're like, there was no way it could have been faked. We tested her voice, we sent it to a lab, and the lab said it was a distinct other human's voice. It couldn't have come out of Suzanne. It's a scary ghost voice, and it's doing a round and round the garden.
So the timeline in this movie confuses me a little bit. So they've been doing their investigation for a while now, and now they're finally going into the house. Is that what's happening?
Dr. Pascoe's had her investigation. She's been with them for a long time, but this is the first time the BBC and Ghostwatch
This
has
is
been
footage
involved.
from Pascoe's
Okay,
investigation.
from her personal
or at least,
collection.
Audio tape. And yeah, so we hear Pipe. His voice is coming from Suzanne, but it's Pipe's voice. Yeah, it's round and round like a teddy. 1 step, 2 step, tickle.
It's so creepy when
And they're like talking to him. Who are you? What's your name? G. Christ.
he's got a sense of humor.
Jesus Christ, are you joking? Very funny. Are you dead? Are you in heaven? All good children go to heaven.
Children's nursery rhymes and stuff are always so creepy out of their context.
I mean, that one's creepy in context.
Yes.
Yeah, true enough. Dr. Pascoe's kind of breaking down that Suzanne fits the typical profile for somebody who would be the center of this paranormal activity. She's like an introverted kid. She directs her stress and anxiety inwards. It's just like the classic scenario for a ghostly haunting to occur.
Yeah, in any movie where somebody's getting haunted, except for The Exorcist, it's usually some kind of loner kid who keeps to themselves,
Cole.
does their artwork and their drawings, and then eventually their drawings get real creepy one.
Yeah, The Sixth Sense. Classic scenario.
Eventually they start drawing pictures of Santa Claus with a bunch of dead pigeons littered around his feet.
Next thing you know, they've got a podcast and a high and low dungeon.
No, Doc, say it ain't so. Not a podcast.
She's a good girl. She'll never get a podcast. She'll never start a podcast.
Caleb, I forbid you have a podcast, Caleb.
Caleb, what is this Zoom track I found in your room? Is it for recording podcasts, Caleb?
Parky's being very fair and balanced now. They've got Dr. Pascoe. She's their believer. So they bring in Dr. Emilio Silvestri. He's telephoning in from New York.
Yeah, he's an American.
He's the skeptic. He got the skeptic role. He's got the logical, common sense counterpoint.
Your
for whatever.
conclusions, Dr. Silvestri? There's nothing on the tape that couldn't be fake. Nothing's conclusive. Suzanne's scratches could be self-inflicted. Is it measurable? Is it provable? For years, parapsychologists have been trying to prove their theories in a lab and failing.
She won't hear of it. She's Dr. Pascal's first instinct is always to believe anything these people she investigates say. If for no other reason than she's just there to get to the bottom of
Believe women.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to the root of what's going on here. That's what she's interested in. So
Yeah.
she's a little exasperated by this Dr. Alan Silvestri guy, and she's kind of rolling her eyes as he gets taken off the air.
Yeah. She says, just look at the earlies. They're traumatized. She says that Silvestri has a belief system too, and he always defaults to base skepticism. She's kind of pissed, and Parky's like, good doctor made you quite cross, didn't he?
Of course, everything he said is right.
I definitely saw Pipes in the studio around
I
here.
missed that one.
Yeah.
He does. He pops up in the studio a couple times.
That's extra spooky because that's not in the house.
Yeah. It's interesting as things go along because they realize that
Have you guys seen Pipes while we've been recording?
in this house,
Right
now,
I've hidden him in several places.
I
Think
did
you'll
see.
be pleasantly surprised.
I saw a man wearing a dress. Face was very bloody. He was covered in scabs. I thought
That's your dad.
Yeah, I didn't know your dad was coming by today.
I thought maybe somebody escaped from the high and low dungeon.
God damn it, Mitch, let me out of here. I'm your dad, god damn it.
I have to get a better lock for that thing.
Sarah Green, now it's her turn to tell a ghost story.
Oh, yeah, she hinted at it earlier. She was like, if you're all very lucky, audience, I'll tell you my ghost story.
She was staying at her friend's place, and she was woken up by the sound of a harpsichord, chamber music. Very typical England thing, or so I believe.
Love harps.
Love it. She was in a state of twilight consciousness. She could see an Indian woman's face, eyes moving from side to side, and the eyes rolled back. And the homeowners told her that the home had once belonged to the viceroy of an Indian, and he had 2 Indian concubines buried on the property. Sarah told the ghost not to worry. The bodies will be safe. Smithy was frightened.
Yeah, Smithy, her husband, he's a bit of a scaredy pants when it comes to ghost stuff. Sarah Green's a little more bold and brave.
Well, she's the boots on the ground reporter. She's got to be able to go into the shit.
good for doing this field report stuff.
Yeah.
But Sarah Green sends Kim Early up to bed, and Sarah Green and the camera crew. That's one thing they do a good job of in this, is you really get a feel for the way that the Early household is laid out, and like the Fox Drive street outside. Like they'll be constantly going through this house. You know, they go upstairs. That's where the girls' rooms are. Some stuff happens up there. Certain paranormal activities. The bangings in the walls. Down the stairs under the crawl space. That's where the creepy crawl space is. Under
The glory
stairs
holes where
there.
the magic happens.
Yeah, then there's the kitchen, and they'll go through the house, and it's nifty how they'll pull some stuff up, because you know there's some camera crew trickery and stuff going on, because they'll be downstairs, and then they'll be banging upstairs, and then the camera will follow them upstairs, and they make good use of this house.
Yeah, and it's not a huge location, so you know there's only the few rooms in it, and you get to know them all. They all go to hell by the end of it.
Oh yeah, the cameraman's watch stops working at a certain. It stops working at the time that they started the broadcast.
The first haunting happened at 9:15, and then 2 hours later at 9:15 we had another haunting.
spooky.
Like in that Futurama bit where Zoidberg's being a Sherlock Holmes type.
It's the first creepy thing that happens, maybe, or the hint of something weird happening. Like the guy's watch stops.
I'm so happy that I don't need to wind my watch.
Yeah, those old watches are cool though.
Do you wear a watch?
I used to, but even then I didn't have to do it. But like you'd have to change your battery sometimes. But like winding your watch was like a thing you had to do like every day. But there was a period in high school where I was pulling off a mad hat. I had a Mad Hatter look going on where I'd wear like, fancy hats and I'd have like a vest and pocket watches, and I have to like wind my pocket watch every day.
Oh yeah,
Man,
pocket
how did you
watches.
manage to find time to wind your watch with all the pussy you must have been getting?
I made them do it.
Yeah, going
One
back,
of you bitches wind my watch.
While you're waiting in line, why don't you wind this for me?
that's a mall thing. Going back to Dawn of the Dead, like
You clean my top hat.
Rude. Okay, so what's Parky up to? We're going back to the studio, I think.
old Michael Parkinson. He's rolling tape of an interview. Not only do they have the phone call line, but occasionally they'll get a video in of somebody telling one of their ghost stories. Guy's got his face blurred. It's kind of a fun story.
I didn't get permission for my face to be shown. I want it to be blurred.
Blur me out. He was out to dinner at like a
Voice
whatever.
altered to sound like Steve Allen.
Ay, caramba.
He went to a diner to get some mackerel, this guy. But the mackerel came and it appeared to be covered in some kind of saliva, maybe an ectoplasm of some kind.
He's probably a shitty tipper, and they just jerked off onto his fish after one too many times of not leaving any tip.
That seems most likely. Then he went back to his house and there was this saliva was all over his door stoop too.
Slimer.
There's some kind of drooly, slimy ghost that was following this guy. And he got upset and he yelled at the ghost, and the ghost spit all over him. Then they found excrement smeared on a cover. Okay, that escalates very quickly. From saliva to excrement, that's like, I could handle a saliva spirit, but the excrement, I don't know.
Why did it have to be a shit demon?
This is as good a time as any for me to share one ghost story or haunting story that I have that is not dissimilar from
Interesting.
when we lived at my old place, my dad's place on the far north side. It was definitely built over some farmland in like new suburb developments at the edge of town. And we would find frequently wet spots in the middle of the carpet, perfectly round wet spots.
Oh, man.
Specifically in my bedroom. And like
Targeted you.
like in this movie, you wouldn't, if I pissed on the floor, it wouldn't be a perfect wet spot.
Nocturnal
Yeah.
emissions.
There was no.
Did you ectoplasm in the night?
I would have dreams.
Bro, I ectoplasmed all over her goal.
I don't know if they were dreams, but I would see and hear cows in my fucking room.
Everybody's got a thing.
There would be fucking liquid. I saw faces floating outside my window
Weird.
at night sometimes. I could see figures and they weren't always entirely human. And I thought perhaps they were fucking animals, ghosts of animals there. That shit freaked me out because it would happen again and again. And there were toys and things in my room that would frequently go off. The posters would often come off the walls that I
Interesting.
had completely mounted with tacks and everything, and I'd mount them again and again, and they would just be torn off the fucking walls. I would wake up in the middle of the night and multiple posters had been torn down.
That's creepy shit.
And that was a brand new house.
Dude, you can't even build a house on a farm these days.
No.
without
Yeah,
being haunted.
no. Something was off in that house. The energy was off in that house. It felt haunted. I still, to this day, we would find spots in the carpet that were wet all the time. And there was no explanation. The roof was fine. Like
It's so
I couldn't
strange.
jizz that much to make that big of a wet spot on
Not
the
in a
carpet. I didn't
perfect
have any
circle.
water or anything in my room. Like this movie gave me some chills because some of these things felt pretty familiar to me.
Yeah.
I've never had a haunting, but when I was house hunting a few years ago, houses are weird. When you start looking into other houses and looking around, there's just weird shit out there. And we were
Yes,
looking at this one
100%.
place, and it wasn't on the real estate plan or anything like that. There was a glory hole there. So I'm like, well, what? Like a little door under the stairs. I'm like, well, let's check this out. And I opened it. And there was a stone staircase, like out of Barbarian, that just like went down into this dank, like sub basement with like puddles of water on the floor. And the realtor's like, they didn't put this in the ad. What's going on here? Just like the weirdest fucking shit. And
Dude,
And
I've
that's-
seen multiple houses like that. Like Charity, my sister, she lived in one and it had like a cellar and it was like under the stairs. There was a basement, but then there was a separate place and it had a dirt bottom and there was all this shit. We found bones and shit down there.
Yeah, it's fucked
There
up.
was a
Creepy.
chair and like a bunch of fucking weird like newspaper clippings.
Yeah.
And like
So
when
messed
we were
up.
house hunting too, like there was a place, it was like, oh, this place looks charming. And then literally we looked under a rug and there was a fucking hatch down underneath this place and it was near Chinatown.
Open it up, just a bunch of scratches on it.
I swear to God, it was like the Evil Dead cabin. I was like, I'm not going down there. Like
No.
me, the realtor, my wife, we were like, fuck this place. Like we just
Yeah.
got the absolute creeps and we were gone.
Yeah.
We,
As soon as you catch a whiff of something like that, like, no. I
No
don't-
other place I've lived was haunted.
This isn't
And, like,
Toronto. I don't need to live in a poltergeist house. Like, I can fucking find another place
the
that's
murder
has like
house.
3 bedrooms.
We'll be back written in blood on the wall.
Well, pay $1.2 million. That's reasonable. No inspection. I don't need to have anybody scan for ectoplasm.
Yeah, we had a creepy in a townhouse I used to live in, had one of those hatches in the floor that went down to like a cellar or something. We never ever went in there, not once. But
Don't you ever go in
like,
there.
there's just like I never saw a ghost or anything as a kid, but I definitely had lots of moments where I would be like home alone or something and just get a thorough sense of the creeps. Like there was one time I was home alone at the townhouse we were living in. I had to leave the house and I just went and stood outside for a while. I was like, I just got this like really creepy feeling like that you're being watched or whatever in the house. And it's probably just entirely in your head, but
I get that feeling every time I come into the studio.
yeah. Well, you are being watched. Yeah.
Fuck that. I can't live in a place that I haven't explored every little nook and cranny of.
And like the rational part of my brain is probably like your mind is just pretty adept at putting together when something is a little off, at pre-warning you to get freaked out or something. Early warning system for flight or fight or fuck or fight response.
I don't know if I'm gonna fuck or fight. You better make up your mind.
Do the old MacGruber, just fucking that ghost.
There used to be a show on TV that would be celebrities telling their ghost stories. I remember Ernie Hudson was on there once. Lucy Liu was on there, and she had a story about having sex with a ghost.
Yeah.
Fuck, lucky ghost.
She had an erotic encounter with a ghost. They made passionate love to her.
Yeah, seriously, wish I was that ghost.
Yeah.
I would die for a chance to.
So many high fives in hell or wherever ghosts hang out.
Yeah, I was probably an incubus. Those are
Yeah.
a special kind of demon that fucks a woman till she
Yeah.
dies.
Fuck demon.
Succubus. That's the girl equivalent. That's how monks always used to explain nocturnal emissions. They'd be like, a succubus must have come in the night. And Caleb, didst thou spill thy seed in the night, Caleb?
Hast thou been to the succubus? Hast thou been to my glory hole, Caleb?
Tell me true.
Father's glory hole. Remove my vestments.
So anyway,
Where are let's
so they found even poop smeared on a cupboard door.
Been
That,
there.
according to this guy's story about the spit and stuff everywhere, that reminded me of my
Creepy.
animal haunting. Yeah. So back to Fox Hill Drive, we see Craig Charles, our correspondent in the field, and he takes a camera on a journey to interview Yvonne Etherly.
Yeah, there's these two ladies, just like neighborhood ladies, who are hanging out in a park, and he's interviewing them about the ghostly goings-on in Fox Hill Drive. Like, what are some of the things going around right here? Like, have you seen any of this ghostly stuff? They're saying one night they heard a bunch of banging, and they went to the Early house. The top window was smashed, and the girls and Pam were in the garden crying. They say it's very funny, it's very weird living in Fox Hill Drive. The 5-year-old got knifed. Like, there's all these random little one-off incidents of violence. Like, a 5-year-old got knifed in the park. People go missing every once in a while and this kind of thing. It's all pretty normal urban environment stuff. Any city, this stuff probably happens, but you can work yourself up into a paranormal lather about it under the right conditions. Then they go to the crowd scene. This is another pipe sighting here, as Craig Charles is...
we get a good look at him here, but
Yeah.
it's easy to miss.
He's standing behind the crowd that Craig Charles walks by, and Pipes is this big bald thing with like it looks like one of his eyes is messed up or missing maybe. His face is like mutilated, and he wears women's clothing. Like it seems like he has a frock on, a button-up frock that buttons all the way up the front. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye out for that when you watch Ghostwatch.
kind of looks like Billy Corgan.
Or like Uncle
Didn't he wear
Fester.
a dress in one of them videos too?
Maybe, but I know that he wears like a lot of like button up. Yeah,
Seems like a gothy thing to do.
I like that guy. Pretty good follow on Instagram.
Craig Charles is talking to Arthur Lacey, who's one of these guys in the crowd, and he says he did a bit of an investigation on the Early house. He's a spiritualist, and in his spare time, he went to the Early house to pray with them, and he's kind of like the demonologist in Paranormal Activity, where he's like, it felt like an evil presence in the house, and I had to go immediately, and that's my... Again, sort of non-evidence that this place is haunted. Like, it's not really evidence of anything, but it's just another piece of the puzzle that this is a creepy place where...
He sensed spiritual decay,
Yeah.
which is something that, once again, it's one of those things I feel like I have a bit of a sense for. Or, like, I don't know how else to describe it, but, like, you can feel decay. Like, there is no spirit in this place. Like, something is amiss.
Yeah.
What is amiss?
It's a bad
Something
place.
is off.
As it goes along, you do kind of get some more hints as to the history of this house, and it is a bad place where bad things have happened, if nothing else.
Do you believe in evil places? Yes. Anyone who buys a house weighs that subconsciously. Just as we are products of our mothers and fathers, places inherit the genes from their past too. That's what he says, and more as I think about it, I think I somewhat believe it.
Maybe just to the extent that, like, there's just bad vibe place.
Yeah, I don't know how you explain bad vibe places, but everybody can feel it. Everybody knows what, if you talk about that to somebody, they know what you're talking.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
spiritual decay is, like, a good way for him to put it. If
yeah.
you've ever been to Trump Tower, and you can just,
Yeah.
like, feel the vast emptiness of it.
The hollow golden toilet.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Ivanka. You're in one.
Yeah. Sarah found a big old stain on the carpet.
Eternal
Yeah.
emissions.
And they're
Ectoplasm.
checking the light fixture above the stain for moisture. It's dry. There's no smell. They notice it's in basically a perfect circle. If you were to pour water from a jug, it wouldn't pour that way.
Just like what you were talking about.
This is exactly like from my life. Like, let me tell you guys, I was fucking scared watching the movie.
Yeah. I wonder if that's
got to
a
listen more
common
coast to
thing
coast.
in, like, paranormal
Yeah, I haven't listened to that
cases.
much.
There's a lot of these, like the Enfield poltergeist. There's a bunch of these real, quote-unquote, poltergeist cases. I wonder if this is one of, like, a common described phenomena. Maybe we should look into it.
I'm sure most of the stuff in this movie is based on
Yeah,
real
Water
life
pooling
accounts.
in weird ways is, I don't know if it's a full-blown trope, but I've definitely seen it in horror movies before where it kind of leads the way. It shows you where the unnatural thing is coming from or propels them to the next area.
Yeah, it was interesting earlier that you're talking about cow ghosts.
Because what?
Because most ghosts always seem to be like a Victorian era person or something like that. Like, where's all the caveman ghosts? There's certain tropes that seem to come up again and again.
Well,
with-
I've thought about this a lot as why aren't there animal ghosts? But and yeah, caveman ghosts, like what
Yeah.
you're saying, but like you talk about like alien abduction stories having all these commonalities, and it's like
Yeah.
how much of it is cultural osmosis and like what
Oh,
we're led
yeah.
to believe. A lot of people describe the Greys, and it's like, well, we've been describing Greys for decades, and
Well, like
Yeah.
ghosts are only around when they have unfinished business, right? That's kind of how people explain it. Like lots of times spirits just kind of pass on to the other realm or whatever. But if they have,
Often,
say they're from
maybe
like
they-
Cowfucker Ranch and there's a bunch of angry cows, then they might want to stick around for a little bit.
Cowfucker Ranch.
If I were to try to explain it, it would be like, well, there might be some of those ghosts, but ghosts are kind of like the anomaly, right? The ones that haunt you. For the most part, everything goes away or they just kind of become part of the background hum. And then it's these weird ones who have violent tendencies or unfinished business that stick around and mess with people.
yeah, sometimes they don't always have unfinished business, though. Like the other trope is that they're just like echoes of the past, just somewhere between the veil of the living and the dead, and within time itself, that you're just seeing a flicker or a shadow of what once was there. Some
Residual energy.
yeah, some imprint.
Just
But-
living out it used to walk up the stairs every day, so now you hear its footsteps walking up the stairs or something.
Yeah, I love these stories. They're creepy.
Spooky stories.
Dr. Roscoe kind of has them prod around a little bit. She's a thorough paranormal investigator.
She's good.
There's no explaining
thorough.
this stain on the carpet. No natural phenomena could have caused this.
Nope.
The cameraman spilt his beer.
Sir Parky chats with Dr. Roscoe. What do you make of what's happening so far? And Dr. Roscoe's like, poltergeist activity has a pattern. Noises, sounds, water. And the third stage is physical phenomenon. Objects moving. And we get another caller, Kevin Tripp from Neath. Neath? Is that a place in England?
Probably. Neat. I love the English name. Whenever we
Yeah.
get English podcast listeners, they just, it's never from London. It's always from some like New Hampshire,
I was curious myself. It looks like it's in Wales, Neath.
Oh,
Oh, Wales.
He's a Welshman.
oh.
So Kevin's story, he says, just now while watching the show, Kevin's cheese and pickle sandwich dived off the arm of his chair. It frightened me to buggery, it did. It just leapt up with a bloody mind of its own, it did. And Parky's real skeptical.
After
and
I
he's
was
like,
finishing my buggery, I decided to call in the show.
so I think he's taking the piss. Parky's skeptical. He's like, it's Halloween night, homebrew time and all that.
Yeah, we're having fun. Hey, folks.
Yeah, honestly, this
calling
is
in.
pretty thin. Somebody dropped their cheese and pickle sandwich, and it's a poltergeist.
Sarah Green and the sound man are following some noises around the house, and it appears to be under the bed. and then it moves to the closet. And Suzanne and Kim, the girls, they run in before they open the closet and say there was a noise in the kitchen. And they go to the kitchen, and it's littered with children's drawing.
All over the ground.
Just the worst.
They're not all creepy
Looks
drawings.
like my house.
Yeah.
Bad drawings everywhere.
Yeah. It's not even like all bloody ghost drawings or anything. It's just like kids' drawings strewn about.
Did we see pipes? Oh, yeah. We saw pipes in the reflection with all the shitty kids' drawings cluttering the vision.
Yeah. And then they hear a loud banging upstairs, and they rush upstairs to check it out. And the camera catches Suzanne, the older girl, banging on the walls.
Yeah,
And she's like, it wasn't me.
This is exactly what Parky was waiting for. As soon as he gets
Yeah,
this
he's like, oh.
in his hot little mitts, he's like, it's a hoax.
It's
I always
a
knew it
hoax.
was a hoax.
I knew it was a hoax.
I was never scared.
It's like, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we did this investigation tonight to bring you proof of the paranormal, but instead we've brought you proof of a rather unfortunate hoax.
Yes.
This whole thing was a scam.
Dr. Roscoe, she says, this is an established pattern. Genuine phenomenon followed by the fakery stage when children feel compelled to come up with the goods. I was there. I've seen inexplicable things. 100%, no question.
Yeah.
So she's really digging her heels in at this point.
She's like, don't be so quick to dismiss all of this.
Yeah.
It could be the real deal.
It does kind of make sense what she says, because now you've got this national audience that's tuned in, expecting to see ghostly goings on, and the children almost feel this pressure to perform and make these ghostly happenings actually occur while the cameras are rolling. So it does make sense that there would be pressure. Maybe Suzanne would feel pressure to do some fakery, even in a situation that is mostly real. Ghostwatch does do a pretty good job of blurring the line. Now we got Michael Parkinson in the studio interviewing Suzanne Early.
Stalwart as ever.
Unusual pairing, because Suzanne Early's in the Early house, so she's usually getting talked to by Sarah Green, but now Michael Parkinson, after seeing her bang on the walls, kind of trying to get to the bottom of this. He's like, what about the writing in your book? Like all those scribbled madman notes. Did you do that? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. And the noises in the wall, like the scratches on your face. Like, did you do all that, Suzanne? Pamela Early comes in, Suzanne's mom, and Suzanne's
she doesn't have any nails. She couldn't have made these scratches.
Can't scratch herself. Suzanne's kind of crying and saying, like, we thought you'd leave us to Pamela, and just saying to the audience at home, like, we just gave you what you wanted, which is kind of true. Like, if you're tuning into Ghostwatch, you want to see a ghost banging on the walls.
Yeah, Pamela's pleading with them. She's saying, my family's telling the truth. We're all telling the truth. Cut back to Dr. Silvestri, the American skeptic. He says, oh, these are clearly disturbed attention seekers. Dr. Roscoe's played right into their hand, and Dr. Roscoe, she counters that whatever's in the Early house is deliberately muddying the water.
Which, if you accept the premise that there's a mischievous ghost in the house, also makes sense. Yeah. Like, of course it would want to muddy the waters.
Roscoe says it's important that they access her special recording in light of what's happened. So now they cut to another ghost story interview.
A woman she lived in a nasty old house where stuff broke all the time, poltergeist activity. In her bedroom, she would see shadows move. That's a popular ghost thing, shadow people. She asked for a nightlight, but it only made the interview cuts off. They're starting to get technical difficulties in the studio now. The lines are blurring a little more. It almost used to be like the studio was a safe zone. Like when they would cut to the Ghostwatch crew in the field, creepy stuff was happening there, but you felt a little safe with Michael Parkinson and Dr. Pascoe in the studio, away from the action, but technical difficulties are starting to interrupt the interviews, stuff like that. So the unease is creeping in.
They get another ghost story call in. This guy says, we've got this big glass table. My husband just rested one finger on it and exploded everywhere. My children are frightened. Why are you doing this? And Parky's like, well, yeah, I believe your children should be in bed. And
maybe you should learn how to be a mother.
Yeah. It's like there is a parental
It's 9 o'clock, ho. Where the fuck your seat at?
She's saying, I can't drag them away from the TV. They won't take their eyes off the TV. And there's blood all over the wallpaper from my husband exploding the table. Her clock's all stopped in her house at 9:30. This is a repeated thing that callers are starting to say now, is just like the guy whose watch stopped earlier, clocks in these houses where the Ghostwatch is airing are starting to stop.
Yeah, then they played Dr. Roscoe's old interview footage with Kim, the younger girl. Like, can you describe Pipes? He's really old and he's got blood all over his eyes. He's bald and his nose has a scratch all the way on. He has a black dress with buttons all the way down. So Kim's description exactly matches the descriptions that callers have been giving for the figure that they saw in the corner. And Dr. Roscoe is starting to believe that maybe Kim is actually the focus of the poltergeist
maybe
activity.
it was Kim all along.
There's no reason that random callers calling in should be giving an exact description as this monster that Kim has described.
And there's no way Kim would know what random callers are talking about either, right?
No.
How peculiar.
Yeah.
So now Sarah Green and Pamela Early can hear the yowling of cats all around the house making ruckus.
I hate when cats start to go off on the shit.
Kim says that Pipes is saying that they have to stay in the house because obviously all their instinct now is flee the house. But Kim is obsessed, the younger girl, with staying in the house. She seems to be in communication with the Pipes spirit to some degree. Back in the studio, Mike Smith manning the call-in phone lines. Mary Christopher calls and says that her mother used to frighten them with tales of Mother Seddon come and get you. Mother Seddon was a baby farmer, a childminder who would take kids in town and drown them in big copper pots.
In the big coppers.
She used to live on Fox Hill Drive and perhaps in the very house where all this haunting is happening now.
That very
Baby
Matt.
farmer.
Yeah, baby farmer. Well, you always hear about this, like, I know in like
You plant the baby in the ground.
yeah, you get 2 more babies.
That's how it works,
It's never
right?
ending. I believe a stork's involved at some
I'll have to
point.
try
I'm not a biologist.
The soil's got all those good nutrients.
You hear about these places in the Ireland and stuff that were kind of the equivalent of residential schools in Canada, where just like they just have like mass graves of children because they were like these horrible orphanages where plague and pestilence just spread around, horrible conditions to live in, and it was basically just the bum house where you sent unwanted kids who no one to take care of them, no family to mind them. So I'm assuming Mother Seddon's like maybe that's what a baby farmer is, like a person who would work at one of these type of places.
Yeah, we wake up every Sunday morning.
We mind
We
the
harvest the children. We take them to the farmer's market. We take them to the orphanage, see who wants to buy them.
Yeah, you club them with the billy hook.
It's honest work, but somebody's got to do it.
Easy peasy. The kids are all freaked out. Suzanne Early and Kim Early. Kim says they can't leave until she has talked to Pipe.
Yeah. I noticed at this point that Suzanne has crisscross posters
Nice.
and NKOTB
Nice.
posters.
It's too bad this didn't take place a few years later. She could have had NKOTBSB.
Yeah.
NKOTBSB.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, the Backstreet
New
Boys
Kids on the Block.
weren't even a
Boys.
glint in, what's his name, Lou Pearlman's eyes.
She could have
At that
increased
point.
that acronym by 3 holes.
Yeah, Pearlman hadn't even started molesting the Backstreet Boys and the NSYNC guys at that
Stealing
point.
all their money.
A real life ghoul.
They ask Kim what Pipes looks like. She says, like somebody's mommy. I'd debate that. I don't know. He doesn't look very matronly to me. He does wear a dress. It's like a scabby Uncle Fester.
Yeah, he looks like Mr. Mom.
I was thinking of Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan.
I was thinking
but-
Mr. Nanny too, and then I realized that that's a nanny, not a mum.
Yeah, same thing if you're wealthy enough. I live in the walls of your house, brother. I make noise, I make your water stink, brother. Pipes-a-mania.
Sorry, I burped. I had a lot of cabbage earlier. Anyway, here's me saying the N-word for 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I watched Pipes sex. It was horrible. The angle sucked.
Yeah, it's just all that. It's just all Pipes' taint.
All of his coal hole.
Proud to be an American, brother. Check out my coal hole.
Less of Pipes'
be-
coal hole, more of Pipes' glory hole. Well, stick your Johnson into this, brother.
What a scenario.
So now Mike Smith in the studio reveals they're getting a barrage of calls about paranormal activity throughout the country related to the broadcast. The clock stopping, dogs barking, radios dying, glasses breaking. Mr. Narrow from Cheltenham says his son is making glasses break. Parky's like, I'm sure we can assume that many, if not all of these calls are jokes. And a young lady calls very distressed. Called in earlier but hung up before they could find out what she wanted. Parky's just urging them to, well, let's focus on Sarah in the early house. And we would only need to give time to these pranksters.
Bunch
No
of
crank
comments
calls.
and
We want the hard information, just the facts.
Sarah Green, she's still with the early family. The spooky technical difficulties are still happening, camera glitches and stuff. It's really ramping up pretty quick. The activity is going crazy. The banging's getting out of controls on the walls. Suzanne, she's crying in the corner. She's speaking with the same Pipes voice from earlier, doing a big bad wolf thing. What big eyes you have. What big lips you have. Pamela starts shaking her. She snaps out of the trance. There's a thing going on with the early girls and Pamela where it seems like part of this ghostly phenomena might be involved with their fear of being abandoned by Pamela, like a fear of abandonment. So Pamela's shaking Suzanne, and Suzanne's like, go on, get out of the house then if you don't want to be here. I don't care. You just mess things up. I hate you. Doing a little teenage hissy fit. Kim's missing at this point. Sarah Green's looking like all over the house for her, searching for her, calling her name. They find her in the kitchen. The fridge is open, and she's behind the fridge door in there, I think.
Yeah, I have kids. This happens all the time.
Good hiding spot.
Sounds terrifying.
And they always said fridges were like a massive danger for kids back in the day because I guess you couldn't get out of a fridge if you were trapped inside of it. There was no safety mechanism to let you out. Like it would latch and you'd be trapped inside. Apparently it was like a leading cause of... I don't know about leading. That's my that's my headcanon.
Mitch keeps track of all the leading causes.
Yeah. Through the
Did I make the list this year?
Yeah.
No?
Plausible
Damn
deniability.
fridges. Always edging me out of the top 20.
Yeah.
Beat me again. Figure it out. Figure it out, Frigidaire.
No, fridges these days have safety features. It's bullshit. We used to be able to weed out a lot of these kids.
Now you stuff them in there and they get right out like it's nothing. Like, there they go.
Yeah, it's not like the old days.
Things ain't like they used to be, huh?
This truly is our most ghoulish episode.
Yeah. Bound to be.
I don't know. It seems like we say that every episode.
And we're always right.
So, a mutilated stuffed bunny is found under the kitchen sink under the running faucet.
It's got its eyes ripped out, which is the most striking thing about Pipe's appearance, too. He seems to have some eye injuries when he appears.
Yeah, Kim says that Pipes told her to tear the stuffed animal's eyes out. He's a bad, bad bunny. Now the crawl space under the floor is booming with the sounds of angry cats, and Sarah and the crew pry the boards off. The door opens by itself, and Pipes is visible.
Yeah,
you see,
you get a little shot of Pipes.
Quick shot of his fucking freaky ass face.
Yeah, before the camera can hold on it for too long, something else happens somewhere else, so the camera pans away, so you just get a very short, small
Soundman
glimpse.
Mike, he just like collapses. He falls over and fucking bangs his head really bad and fucks it up.
Yeah.
He's all
Hits a
bleeding.
table.
They have to call an ambulance for him. Craig Charles, like their Alan, the technical guy who's in charge of all the cameras and the thermal vision and stuff. They're hanging out by the big Ghostwatch TV trucks outside. They say that it's weird that it cuts to this footage. Alan saying there's nothing to report from inside the house. It all seems really peaceful. Craig Charles is saying, to tell you the truth, I'm not really bothered. I didn't really want the scoop on the Headless Horseman. I mean, where do you put your microphone? It's a weird contrast.
It's a dumb joke, Charles.
Yeah, good BBC presenter joke. But like it's this weird scene to cut to because shit's getting chaotic in the early house, and now outside on Fox Hill Drive, this footage makes appear that things are calm, and they cut back to the hidden cameras that they have in the early house, and everything seems to have calmed down in there now. No more like everybody's just hanging out in the living room and drinking a glass of water and stuff. Everything seems to be back to normal.
Yeah, this part was pretty freaky because inside the house things are as crazy as they've been the entire time, and then everybody's playing pat a cake.
Yeah, something's not quite adding up.
And people in the studio feel it too. There's like, well, everything's normal, and old Sir Parky's just trying to
Like, oh, good.
play it. Yeah, kind of. But also, he's like, okay, everything's normal, perfectly fine.
Perhaps there was just a flight of fancy.
We have to keep filling time, though, don't we?
Oh, maybe there's some more callers.
Yeah, they get a caller who calls in with some info about the history of the house.
East of the Rockies, go.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. Sullers lived there in the 1960s and sublet a room. Being illegal, it wouldn't be on the official record. Their nephew lived there. I knew him, and he was a social worker, and he developed paranoid fantasies that there was a woman on the inside of his body, making him do things that he didn't want to do. He started to wear dresses. The delusions got so bad that the only way to escape them was to kill him. So Tunstall hanged himself. He tied wire around his neck to a lathe and switched it on. He did it under the stairs, locked in with the cats. And after 12 days, they got hungry and went to work on his face.
So I have a problem. I've tried to get my cat into one room, and it's an effort. I don't know how, this room's not very big. I don't know how he's getting a bunch of cats in there, because when they make the cat sounds, it sounds like there's at least 3 or 4 cats in there.
Cats, famously easy to hurt.
Exactly.
But you know, one thing, a pregnant mother cat will crawl into some weird hole somewhere and lay its 12 baby eggs. From what I understand.
Famously. We all know this.
Again, I'm not a biologist.
I've heard of that.
Cats like to go in boxes. They like to go in weird little holes. I could picture a bunch of cats going into a crawl space. I don't know if a lathe would work to...
I imagine they would eat his eyeballs. Eat his eyeballs.
Yeah.
They ate his eyeballs right out of his skull.
Bloody eyeballs.
His eyeballs.
That's like the
squashed
softest
jelly.
tissue
Yeah.
that is there.
Yeah.
Eyeballs and cheek.
Dude, that lathe thing actually
Yummy.
struck me a lot, where it's like, I could picture that, right? Because it just like spins and round and just would fucking chop his head or choke him real quick.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and that's super visceral.
that
I can
in mind.
imagine it. Yeah.
That was
Hey,
a
Mitch, do
very...
you have a lathe
Keep
I
that
can
in your
borrow?
back pocket.
Like, what a flavorful detail for them to include, that not only did he hang himself, but he did it by tying wire to a lathe and turning the lathe on to, like, I imagine that would probably saw your head off, basically.
That's
So, I
what
mean,
I was picturing.
We'll test it out in the dungeon later.
So that kind of spells it all out. Now, you mentioned the cats and you mentioned the lathe, but the third big detail of the story is the trans thing.
That totally
Yeah.
reads differently in 2024
Yeah.
than it
Yeah.
did in 1992.
And that's become, and it has been a trope for a long time, is that
yeah.
anybody who, you know,
Psycho,
it is trans or whatever is...
Norman Bates wearing
They're-
the
is a
mother's
psycho.
dress.
They're
Yeah.
dealing with inner demons, and they need to figure out a way to
Yeah.
free
Like-
themselves from pain. Of,
Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
It's a trope, and it's not a friendly one, and it's a bad stereotype, and it needs to be addressed. It really does.
Yeah.
It's a pretty disgusting trope, and it bummed me out a little bit in this movie that I otherwise was very much enjoying.
yeah, it didn't. They didn't need to include that detail at all.
It used to be a way to basically just be like, how do we make this weirdo
Yeah.
like weirder?
They're obviously weird and disturbed. If
Yeah.
it's a man who dresses in women's
They
clothing.
do something unusual. Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, they're not exactly addressing perhaps the abuse that person was, you know, had suffered because of them being
yeah.
different or whatever. Nowadays, you might have at least that.
No, it's definitely worth mentioning. It all just gets lumped in to make this person like a super nut job, and it's not necessary at all. It doesn't add anything, and it detracts.
Yeah.
But like things have ramped up to the point now where things have gone totally off the rails. A wind is actually picking up in the studio after this caller gets off the line.
Oh, it
Like,
just appears one of our grips has left the,
Yeah.
the door of the sound stage open again. This is a perfectly normal phenomena.
Nigel, we've told you not to have beans before the broadcast.
a warm wind.
Could you not break wind in here, please? You're blowing my hairpiece apart.
The musical fruit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just like a steady stream.
You'll have to pardon him. He's from Wales.
Guy just eats a plate of beans, and the trade winds are blowing out of his asshole.
Make a deposit from the old coal chute, love. They kind of realize while all this is going on that the footage that they've been watching in the early house isn't a live feed. Somehow their technical glitches and difficulties have made it so that they've been getting an older feed from hours ago.
They pieced together the fact that there's a picture hanging on the wall that fell and broke earlier, and it's hanging on the wall just the way it was before.
It's a dupe. This isn't live. This footage is from earlier in the evening. Then they get the live feed from
Live
Fox
from New
Hill.
York, it's the poltergeist haunting.
It's Fox Hill Drive.
Musical guest, 12 cats. And your host, Pipes the Poltergeist.
We never had those 12 cats back on the show again because they performed a song that we asked them not to.
Those 12 cats ripped up a picture of the Pope and really rubbed everybody the wrong way. And then one of them started doing a Jamaican accent for some reason.
A patois man.
Adrian Brody.
All classic. Yeah. One of them was found to be lip syncing. It was a whole fiasco.
Yeah, when they caught that cat lip syncing, she just started doing a weird dance and kind of bugged everybody.
You guys,
So I'm at the golf course with Pipes. poltergeist.
Me and Pazuzu, we called Pipes, and we're going to play golf at the Marriott. So that's it. So me and the Blair Witch.
Me and Blair, the witch.
That's what, like, if you're friends with Blair Witch, you call her Blair.
We were out camping, and Pipes, poltergeist, wanted to come along. We said sure, but
She call her the Burkittsville Witch. Blair Witch is a hateful term. Burkittsville is the proper name.
it's a bit of a pejorative. So they're at Fox Hill Drive.
They've got the live feedback from Fox Hill Drive. Mike's being carted away in an ambulance. Like, an ambulance is outside now. He's the same guy who got his head bashed earlier randomly. In the house, Sarah Green, the field reporter, is just wandering around now. Chris has the thermal visions on. You get your little Silence of the Lambs scene almost, where they're in the dark and now you're getting the thermal vision.
I really like this thermal vision. It was the resolution wasn't as good as it was in Predator, but that made it creepier.
Yeah.
Because it's just blurry blobs and it's just pretty well silent aside from that.
In the studio, things are really ramping up too now. The winds are, like, it's a hurricane wind in there now. Lights are smashing, chairs are blowing over the studio. Back at the early house, Sarah hears Suzanne's voice in the glory hole under the stairs. Sarah enters the glory hole, and it slams shut behind her, and Pipes, the poltergeist, is visible in a nearly subliminal flash before the camera cuts away, and it's a pretty terrifying moment, and you've got Mike Smith, Sarah's husband, back in the studio, who's just seen Sarah get locked into this crawl space, and he's yelling for her. The camera guy's banging on the door trying to get her out, and, you know, the cats are meowing. It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
It would be creepy to be trapped under some stairs at the best of times, even with no paranormal involvement.
Yeah, to have a door slam shut and lock you in.
We had a bedroom door upstairs when I was a kid that there was something wrong with the doorknob, and if it closed, you couldn't open it from one side. These doors are made of ticky-tack. You could kick through them if you wanted to, and they had a little hole in the doorknob that you could poke through to get it open. But yeah. I remember I closed the door when I was a kid, and I was in there with one of my friends. I was like, oh, we can't get out. We're trapped in this room. And he just, like, burst out crying and it was, like, totally traumatized by it. I think he was, like, claustrophobic and I didn't realize. And the idea of being trapped in a room was terrifying to him. And I was like, it's actually easy to open. Sorry.
That's fucked up. You know,
you traumatized him for life.
One thing that was weird about my most recent house, the one that is actually an old house, 100 years old or whatever, is it had locks on the outsides of them.
Interesting.
Not all of them, but like the bedrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And even the closets, they had slide locks installed on the outside to lock things in. Why would people always do this?
It must have just been a way to latch something back in the day before, like, clicky parts and magnets and stuff. It's
My kids have been waking me up 2 or 3 times a night, every night for the past couple weeks, so I get it.
Could you imagine, though, actually locking your kids into their bedroom?
Oh, God, no. No, we use a baby
That's
gate.
horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I would never. That is so evil. I don't know. Like, what reason you would have to do that besides to be abusing somebody, or you're concerned that something evil in there is going to get out?
Well, maybe they just didn't know how to hang a door, whoever built the house, and they just kept swinging open.
Or maybe. I mean, we have antique doorknobs in there that are from the fucking 1920s.
You guys have good, wholesome kids, though. If you had these early girls who are making up poltergeist stories, you'd be looking to lock them in a room for the night.
Maybe.
Like maybe they were dealing with those shit twins, a witch.
Yeah.
Black Phillip told me I can do whatever I want.
Dash their skulls with a bill hook. You got to dash the skulls with a bill hook and they don't come back. They do not haunt.
Save money on locks.
You lock the door from the outside to keep them in. They lock it from the inside to keep you out.
Yeah. So power's being lost in the studio. We see Pipes up in the rafters studio. The emergency lights come on. Parky's like, I'm pretty sure there's a backup generator.
Well, there's got to be a reasonable explanation for this.
Yes.
Another one of our grips has eaten beans.
Yeah. And we can hear cats all around him. And then we kind of just hear Pipe's voices. Didn't believe those stories about Mother Seddon, did ya?
It's creepy. And this is all coming out of old Sir Parky's lips, out of his mouth when he's talking.
And like the Blair Witch, there's not really any resolution. It ends right there and goes to credits with the sound of this blowing, howling wind and screaming cats. And
I'll say both of these movies ended incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Just they spent a good long time building up all the tension, and things are ratcheting up as they go along. And then when the shit finally hits the fan and it just kind of goes to credits, you know, you're left with an impact.
One thing
Just that sound of the howling wind.
Oh, awesome Halloween sound. We had to do plays for drama school, and I used like a disc of creepy sound effects for my play because a gate to hell opened. I was doing a Monty Python's The Meaning of Life.
Oh,
and there's
right,
a
I played
scene in
Death.
that where they go to hell.
The Seven Moose.
I made some howling wind sounds.
Yeah, with Terry Gilliam.
Perfect. Yeah, Dr. Roscoe, we kind of glossed over this. She brings up as shit's getting crazier and crazier. She's kind of like, well, we've unintentionally been doing a seance as this goes along. Like, by broadcasting this to the British public, we have created the world's largest seance, and we've given the ghost more power, and that's why it's able to make all the wind coming and
Sure.
blow the studio. It makes sense. Makes a kind of parapsychological sense.
Yeah, I didn't need that, though. I could just buy the fact that the ghost is super strong at this point.
Yeah, it's been feeding. But yeah, that was Ghostwatch.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was good. It had a
am-
fun, quirky charm to it, didn't it?
I'm so glad I went into the high and low dungeon, into the boxes, cellars, back in the wine cellar.
Let me out.
I pushed aside my cask of Amontillado.
It's dark in here.
And I found a dusty box, and I found us two great movies for our Halloween howler. And wow. What'd you guys think of movies, Vonn?
Well, I was really happy to revisit the Blair Witch Project. As I mentioned earlier, I hadn't seen it since it came out, and I enjoyed it a lot more this time around for sure. There's just a lot of things that I could appreciate more than, I was 11, I think, when it came out, so more than my 11-year-old brain could really kind of process at the time. The acting was good. Like I said, the tension just kept building and building and building to just a great ending. It's a terrific ending to the movie. And Ghostwatch, I was super happy to watch too. Same, but different, just kind of it built throughout, and cheap special effects. These movies are both really good showcases of how less is more in some cases. You don't really need anything aside from just some out of the ordinary spooky things happening to build that feeling of dread and horror that both these movies did a really good job putting out. I think if I had to recommend one, I would go for Blair Witch. It's a bit of a toss-up for me, but Blair Witch, it's kind of, you check that one out, you see kind of the starting seed of what became a really popular subgenre of horror following it. There were other movies before the Blair Witch Project that did the found footage thing, like Cannibal Holocaust, but Blair Witch put that on the map, and so I think it's important to watch because of that, because a lot of modern horror is informed by it.
Very excellent point. Luke?
Well, if I'm honest, I don't much like the Blair Witch Project as a movie. I just don't think I ever want to revisit it. I find it pretty unpleasant to watch and to live within for even its short runtime. I do concur with what Vonn said. I think it does a lot with what it has. I think it's good for what it is. If there's one movie here that's more essential than the other one, I would say Blair Witch without a doubt. If you're a horror lover, it's just kind of one of those movies on the list you should see. But that being said, I like Ghostwatch better. I just had a better time watching it. I was actually more scared watching it. It was more fun. It's a nice little time capsule into the 90s. It's campy. It's cool. I really enjoyed watching it. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, it is a very cool one to watch. I actually really like both these movies a lot. I like Blair Witch more every time I see it. And I don't like it the way that I like most horror movies. I do kind of like it in the way that somebody mentioned Society of the Snow. And it is like that. It is almost like a people lost in the woods scenario. That's what's scary. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy these three actors just kind of improving. I love the improvisational nature of Blair Witch and the way they kind of find the story as they go along. And all that stuff's really interesting to me. I also really like the tone. I love how it starts off really dramatic with the tension and the yelling, and then it kind of gets more bleak and hopeless as it goes along, and there's something kind of meditative and calming and reflective about those moments, too, as they've kind of accepted death. It gets really weird tonally as it goes along, but I find something new to appreciate in every time I watch it. Ghostwatch is super charming. Just, it's so 90s. It's so British. It does a really good job blurring the lines. Like, you could see watching these people doing a news broadcast in the 90s on the BBC or something, and it doesn't have that ring of nostalgia for us because it didn't air on Halloween here. You know, we're not British, so that element's missing for a Canadian viewer or a North American viewer, but I think it's still just so charming, and the 90s was the 90s no matter where you were in the world. That vibe's always going to come across, but
Yeah.
Still got analog.
I do find it hard to pick one this time around because they are kind of different. They have a lot of similarities, but they're trying to do different things in different ways or similar things in totally different ways. Yeah, this is a tough one.
I struggled with it too. It's kind of tough
This
for me. It was tough for me
matters,
to
Mitch.
choose
Yeah,
one.
You better pick the right fucking one.
It's almost arbitrary.
Your vote matters, Mitch.
I would have to say that the Blair Witch is such a pop culture phenomena that I would have to think most people are familiar with it and have seen it. So I'm gonna give the recommend to Ghostwatch just because this is a charming thing that I feel like a lot of people probably haven't seen. And if you're into this kind of thing, you'll find something to enjoy in it, I think.
There you have it.
Nice.
This brings our first annual House of Horror to a close.
Get it all out, guys.
Yeah. We're not going to be able to
Caleb.
Thomason.
remove thy shift.
William's not going anywhere. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Wouldst thou like more William on your podcast?
William's the devil's play toy. Luke, what are we going next time?
Next episode should be dropping. Speaking of swing votes, like Mitchell over here being an undecided voter, having
That's
a
right.
right down to the wire, just trying to figure out which box to check.
Both movies are the same to me. I can't pick. They're
You know
both
what?
corrupt.
Maybe you can't pick a side, but I'm picking a side for our next episode, and it's going to drop a little bit after Election Day.
Bum, 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 bum.
God save the Queen.
So I'm making the bold prediction that we're going to all be hailing our new God Emperor Trump, who will be reelected. And so we're going to watch 2 movies celebrating the 2 greatest Republican presidents of all time.
Wow. What an honor.
So for our high movie, we're going to watch Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, starring Daniel Day-Lewis.
Mary
And then,
Todd.
then for our low movie, we're going to watch this year's Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid.
Oh, mommy, I think I'll give it 5 stars.
And that would be the 1-year anniversary of our podcast. So it's a very special episode that you have to tune into so we can really close the book on our whole Reagan saga.
Yeah.
But we've gone from Reagan from The Exorcist to Reagan the President.
Wow.
Everything comes full circle. This was planned.
We are Mega Brain over here,
Yeah.
in case you're wondering.
Galaxy
Wow.
Mega Brain.
So until next time, when we come back with our 1-year anniversary and our presidential extravaganza, if you have been enjoying what you've been listening to, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with any lowlives in your life. Until next time, I'm Vonn Guziola.
I'm Mitch Hell McDisaac.
And I'm Spook Slowboot.
Smell you later.
I'm on fire.